March 22nd, 2023, having been reviewed by the Village Council and now available in the Village Clerk's office, be approved as submitted.
I second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Whites,
Yes.
Winograd,
Yes.
and Vagianos.
Yes. And now we have several proclamations to read. Siobhan, will you lead it off for us?
Sure. Whereas the Village of Ridgewood is proud of its many trees, which contribute so much to the beauty and comfortable ambience of the village, and whereas trees in our village increase property sales, property values, enhance the economic viability of the business area, and beautify our community, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas the Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world in recognition of the importance of trees. And whereas the Village of Ridgewood has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for its extensive planting and its program for the maintenance of trees. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim April 2023 as Tree Planting Month, and in the Village of Ridgewood, and April 28, 2023 as Arbor Day, and urges all residents to plant trees to support the efforts to protect our trees and to support our village's forestry program.
Thank you, Siobhan. Evan will now read a proclamation on National Drinking Water Week.
Whereas water is a valuable natural resource, and whereas only tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support for our economy, and the quality of life we enjoy, and whereas any measure of successful society, low mortality rates, economic growth, and diversity, productivity, and public safety are all in some way related to access to safe water, and whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which future generations depend, and whereas each citizen of our village is called upon to help protect our source water from pollution, to protect water conservation, and to get involved in local water issues by getting to know their water. Now for be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim May 7th through the 13th, 2023 as National Drinking Water Week in the Village of Ridgewood.
Thank you, Evan. And Lorraine will read a proclamation for Building Safety Month.
Whereas our village's continuing efforts to address the critical issues of safety, energy efficiency, water conservation, and resilience in the built environment that affect our citizens, both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster, give us confidence that our structures are safe and sound. And whereas our confidence is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, laborers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians, dedicated members of the International Code Council, use a governmental consensus process that brings together local, state, and federal officials with expertise in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect Americans in the buildings where we live, learn, work, worship, and play. And whereas the international codes, the most widely accepted building safety, energy, and fire prevention codes in the nation, are used by most U.S. cities, counties, and states. These modern building codes also include safeguards to protect the public from natural disasters such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our communities, largely unknown guardians of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of safe, efficient, and livable buildings. And whereas building safety is personal, local, and global, the theme for Building Safety Month 2023 encourages us all to raise awareness about planning for safe and sustainable construction, career opportunities in building safety, understanding disaster mitigation, energy conservation, and becoming an advocate for building safety within our community. Building Safety Month 2023 reinforces the appropriate steps everyone can take to ensure the safety of our built environment and recognizes that the implementation of safety codes of local and state agencies has saved lives and protected homes and businesses. And whereas Building Safety Month 2023 strives to ensure that the places where we live, learn, work, worship, and play are safe and sustainable, and recognizes the countless lives have been saved due to the implementation of safety codes by local and state agencies. And whereas each year, in observance of Building Safety Month, Americans are asked to consider projects to improve building safety and sustainability at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim May 2023 as Building Safety Month and encourages all residents to join in participation in Building Safety Month activities.
Thank you, Lorraine. That was an important one, but it was lengthy. So, yes. And I will read a proclamation about Older Americans Month. There were snickers in the council chambers when I was assigned this one. So, whereas the Village of Ridgewood includes a growing number of older Americans who contribute their time, wisdom, and experience to our community, and whereas the Village of Ridgewood benefits when people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds have the opportunity to participate and live independently, and whereas the Village of Ridgewood recognizes our need to create a community that offers services and supports older adults' needs to make choice and how they need to make choices about how they age. Whereas the Village of Ridgewood can foster communities of strength by not limiting our thinking about aging, by exploring and combating stereotypes, by emphasizing the many positive aspects of aging, by inspiring older adults to push past traditional boundaries and embracing our community's diversity. And whereas the 2023 theme is Aging Unbound, which offers an opportunity to explore diverse aging experiences and discuss how communities can combat stereotypes and to promote flexible thinking about aging and how all ages can benefit when older adults remain engaged, independent, and included. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim May 2023 as Older Americans Month and urges every resident to recognize older Americans and the people who support them as essential contributors to the strength of our community. And our final proclamation this evening will be read by Pam. It is No Mo May.
Thank you. Whereas pollinating insects serve a significant and critical role as pollinators, and virtually all of the world's seed plants need to be pollinated. And whereas the environmental benefits that pollinators bring to our village include the reproduction of flowering plants that produce breathable oxygen by utilizing carbon dioxide and help to purify water and prevent erosion through roots that hold the soil in place, and foliage that buffers the impact of rain as it falls to the earth. And whereas the ideal pollinator-friendly habitat is one comprised of mostly native wildflowers, flowering grasses, plants, shrubs, and trees blooming in succession throughout the growing season, and whereas the formative period for establishing of pollinator insect species and the many songbirds that depend upon them occurs in the late spring and early summer as they emerge from dormancy and require flowering plants as crucial foraging habitat. And whereas No Mo May is a community initiative that encourages property owners to limit their lawn mowing practices during the month of May to provide early season foraging resources for pollinators that emerge in the spring, especially in our suburban landscapes when few floral resources are available. And whereas the benefits of No Mo May include increased habitat for pollinators and wildlife, cutting down on pollution and reducing CO2 emissions, making yards safer for kids and pets by reducing the amount of harsh chemicals, that is, pesticides and herbicides, used on our lawns, promoting sustainable landscapes for healthier neighborhoods, creating a safe environment for learning and observation, showing solidarity that the Village of Ridgewood and its residents care about our environment. And whereas the Village of Ridgewood would like to encourage interested residents to increase pollinator-friendly habitat by encouraging pollinator-friendly lawn care practices on their own properties for the month of May. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim No Mow May to actively promote and educate the community about the critical period of pollinator emergence, generation of crucial pollinator-supporting habitat, and early spring foraging opportunities. And be it further proclaimed that the Village of Ridgewood encourages village residents to participate in the No Mow May program, voluntarily delaying lawn care until June, allowing pollinator species to emerge and early flowering grasses to establish.
Thank you so much, Pam, and thanks for getting this to the council's attention. I also want to give a shout out to Frank Mortimer, who was a real force behind this. And I just want to personally say that at my house, we're not mowing the lawn in May. So I hope that everyone else will join us in this very worthy effort that I was unaware of before this came to our attention. And now, we will move on to public comments. I ask, as I do every week, that you bring your passion and you bring your respect.
Paul, before it starts, can I just suggest we have such an important vote tonight, and these people are here to speak their mind. They came almost an hour and a half ago, many of them. To stop at 10 people, everybody should be able to speak their piece before the vote, whether at home or here. And we have a short meeting. It's, we're not going to be getting out at midnight or 1 o'clock if we let everybody speak. I say for tonight, let's let everyone speak.
And you make a good point, but if we do it this time, we have to do it every time. And so we are going to limit it to 10 speakers at the podium. And by the way, always remember, we always go beyond our limit because we have so far 4 speakers on hybrid, which we introduced so that more people would have an opportunity to speak. So again, there are other important issues before the council, and if we do it for one, we do it for all. So
you're saying, like you always tell people.
No. Excuse me, Jackie. And we're going to begin. Please begin.
I am so sorry. Tony Damiano, Executive Director of the Ridgewood Guild, 274 South Broad Street. I'd like to thank these good citizens for letting me cut in line. I'm supposed to be at a film festival meeting. But we're going to start off on a positive note. I'm here to talk about...
Please, again, we bring our respect. Please.
But Paul, it's not fair.
Lorraine, please, we are going to continue with this meeting. Let's not let it degrade into something that we don't want to see.
If you let everybody speak.
Nope, please. Tony,
Okay.
Please begin.
I'm here to read my vacancy list on the stores that are vacant in town. This is a good report. I've been doing this report a number of years. 2 years ago, we had 43 vacancies in town. I am so pleased to report that there are only 13 vacancies in town. After I did a thorough walkthrough and Siobhan did a follow-up, 13 vacancies. I don't ever remember this being that low. They are Wachovia Bank and Capital One Bank that have been sitting vacant for over a decade, Blue Foundry Bank, Hillman Electric, which most likely will be subdivided, Ann Taylor, Gatinoli, and Chico's. Orange Leaf Frozen Yogurt is the only business that I heard of closing this year, another milestone. The Villa, Apricot Lane will be relocating to the La Casita space. Wolfgang Bakery has moved to Glen Rock. Laura Celli and Vera's Bridal Shop vacant on the west side. Coming soon, we have a gelato shop coming to where Samba Bowls was. Dairy Queen will take over Little Nest Portraits. A restaurant is coming where Exclusive Day Spa was. A Persian restaurant where Finca and most likely the old Gap/Joseph E. Bank space will be occupied. In the past 2 weeks, we had 3 openings in town. Paris Baguette took over Amano, Surreal Creamery took over the Originals, and Eyes of Ridgewood took over Papyrus. So this is real good news. Please support our Ridgewood Guild businesses. We desperately need your support in both the retail and restaurant category. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. That's very good news.
I'm reading, Richard Brooks, 777 East Ridgewood Avenue. I'm reading a letter from the Parks, Recreation, and Conservation Board, of which I serve as chair. Dear Mayor and Council, PRC Board is passionately dedicated to our village's recreational facilities and municipal parks, acting as stewards to ensure the maximum number of residents have the opportunity to utilize our beautiful open space and parks and thoroughly enjoy the outdoors and active and passive recreational pursuits. At the PRC Board's March 28, 2023 meeting, we discussed the Shedler property, and based upon the mission of the PRC Board, we would like to provide the Village Council with the Parks, Recreation, and Conservation Board's recommendations for how to make the use of the Shedler property so that it serves the greatest number of village residents. First, just as Health Barn has done so much good for our community and is the cornerstone of the Irene Habernacle Family Park, the PRC Board recommends founding a tenant for the Shedler House that will serve our community, honor its history, and attract visitors to the Shedler property. Second, the board fully supports having public restroom facilities on the property, as doing so will benefit the greatest number of visitors, especially families with young children, allowing many to thoroughly enjoy their time on the property without having to rush off hastily or cut their visit short. Third, the PRC board strongly supports having a playground or play structure for young children to enjoy, as it will bring families to the property and provide our youngest residents with an area where they can benefit from unstructured free play while engaging in physical activity. Fourth, incorporating a walking path into the plans is a must-have, as it will encourage the passive use of the park, and similar to Habernacle Park, the PRC board foresees a significant number of residents using and benefiting from walking or strolling on the property. This amenity encourages socialization and a greater sense of community. Fifth, since we also promote the benefits of wildscapes, green space, natural habitats for pollinators and wildlife, we strongly recommend that the greatest number of trees either be saved or replaced, and that native pollinator-friendly vegetation be planted throughout the property, providing a green space that can be enjoyed by visitors to the property and utilized by the non-human species that call the property home. Finally, it is the Parks, Recreation, and Conservation Board's recommendation for the Village Council to incorporate a full-sized, multi-purpose turf field into its plans for the property. This will ensure that the greatest number of residents are able to use the field. It is our experience that having an undersized field will severely limit its use, while a full-size multi-purpose field will be used by many age groups and serve the greatest diversity of athletes and the various sports that they play. Open play is always encouraged, as well as group use requiring a larger space. The PRC board coordinates our community recreation programs, and in doing so works with the village's field committee, comprised of the various sports leagues and Ridgewood Public Schools. We are acutely aware of the stress our current fields are suffering, and we recognize the numerous benefits that a full-size multi-purpose turf field at Shedler would bring to the community. Village Council members, we the members of the PRC board meet each month with the sole purpose of doing what is best for all our villages,
Time is up.
parks, and recreational spaces. Our recommendations are based upon the PRC board's primary knowledge of Ridgewood's active and passive recreational needs, and how the Shedler property could best meet these needs and serve the greatest number of residents now and into the future.
Rich, thank you very much. And if you'll note, I give everyone an extra 30 seconds. So this, excuse me. It is absolutely true. Next.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm speaking tonight as the president of the Zabriskie Shedler Historic Zabriskie. I'm sorry, please. Ellie Gruber, 229 South Irving.
Thank you, Ellie.
I'm speaking tonight as the president of the Friends of the Historic Zabriskie Shedler House. I'm speaking also on behalf of Manish Ramili, who couldn't get to the mic in time. He's the vice president, and I'm going to take Tony's minute that he gave me, because I let him go before me, and I'm going to add it on to mine. Okay. Excuse me. On the advice of our attorney, the Friends are formally objecting to the plan by the majority of the Village Council to construct a full-size 90-foot baseball and football field, thus voiding the agreed-upon 2018 plan and resolution for a medium-sized soccer field. This new plan will encroach on the house, which has been designated as historic by the county, state, and federal government. The proposed plan is out of character with the historic designation of the house and is inconsistent with grants and designations. Therefore, we have requested that our $40,000 gift to the village for the house be returned. When we donated the funds, it was with the understanding that the 2018 resolution was agreed upon, with large space between the house and the field. This is no longer the plan, so our money must be returned. Your vote to hire the consultant who will request the removal of historic designation will result in public hearings by the State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO. This will take time and money from our Ridgewood taxpayers. You have promised, I believe, $500,000 addition to the budget to be used for construction of a new field at a time when your cutting services is also inappropriate. If you vote tonight to accept the new plan for the larger field and attempt to remove the historical designation, then any decision will result in the delay of any use of the field for years. But by going back to the original plan, you can begin construction soon. There have already been so many delays, some due to an ill-advised plan by the engineering department to submit a plan of SHPO that was not authorized. SHPO rejected this, and we lost 2 years. Please go back to the 2018 plan. As Mr. Shamali says, your actions regarding Shedler Park project are contradictory to the promise made to complete this project as early as possible. Instead of completing the originally approved plan, this council has moved to make large changes and revisit many decisions taken over the last 10 years. By attempting changes to the existing plan, challenging historic designation, your actions are now further delaying the realization of benefits to all residents of our community. Our children have waited long enough. Revised proposed plan is not reflective of the historic nature of the house and the nearby surroundings. Larger fields will cause additional traffic in the area and raise significant safety concerns for their children. We hereby raise formal objection to the new plan and strongly recommend the council to complete the implementation of the agreed-upon 2018 plan, rather than spending years implementing this plan. Residents of Ridgewood, Shedler area, and other areas, including us, are united in the opposition of your actions and are willing to take all steps necessary to ensure the acceptable execution of the previously agreed-upon plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. And before we continue, I want you to know how happy I am to see a full house this evening of people from both sides on this issue who are all passionate about what's going on. I will ask respectfully that we maintain decorum in the room while we discuss this, because shouting from the audience is not going to get anything done. I promise you, it's not going to convince anyone on the dais. Let's listen, as we always do. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Scott Muller. I live at 118 John Street. I'm a 28-year resident of this beautiful village. I'd like to shed some light on the narrative that we're putting our kids at risk by installing a medium multi-purpose field at Shedler Park. Let's address the particles and pollution from Route 17 that will cause asthma and affect kids' respiratory functions. Come on now, this isn't Los Angeles with bumper-to-bumper traffic and long idling car engines. A kid might play on this field maybe 1 or 2 times a season because of the rotation of the fields. I'm sure the residents of that area have kids and have had them playing in their backyard for years right next to 17, so there is no difference between having a field there and not having a field there. Natural grass is safer and cheaper. Grass needs fertilizer, pesticides, irrigation, seeding, and constant mowing. Don't you think these seep into the ground too? Not including that what the town spent on grass fields maintenance. The RBSA spent $35,000 in upkeep alone last year on grass fields. Let's talk about turf PFAs. Believe it or not, artificial turf has been around since 1964. So don't you think if something so diabolical as turf causing cancer or defects in children and adults for the past 57 years, wouldn't you think the government would have pulled the product by now? When Veterans Field...
Excuse me.
Veterans Field floods, fecal matter, road runoff including oils and gasoline, mud and silt, trash and yard debris coat the fields. Even after remediation, when the kids play there, there is a fine dust that goes airborne as they run and fall on the fields. When turf fields flood and dries, any dirt and debris is vacuumed up and there is no dust. So tell me which is safer and easier to maintain. Let's talk about parking and number of cars. Neighbors, be careful what you wish for. You want a small field. So who comes to 6-year-old soccer and football games? Parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, nephews, nieces, maybe a minimum of 3 cars per player. Let's do the math. There's 15 to 25 players on each team. Each team, there's 2 teams on the field at the same time. So getting that smaller field, you're going to have 100 to 150 cars over there. No one carpools with a child at an early age. It's too new and fun for the families to go to the games. On the other hand, a larger field attracts older players that do carpool, and opposing teams sometimes have a bus or a van. Relatives stop coming to games, and often and usually only the parents attend, if any. Is there another field is this field really needed? Baseball and softball have over 150 teams between recreational and travel programs. I'm going to give you 4 company names to ponder: PBI, Teals, Humdingers, and The Bubble, to name a few. These facilities that charge our teams to hold practices because there's a lack of field availability. We all pay taxes in this beautiful town. We bought Shedler together. This very expensive park should be used by as many taxpayers as possible and not let it become forgotten.
Scott, thank you very much.
On a parting note, I think the park should be named Remembrance or Memorial Park after our 9/11 residents. I hope it's not named Shedler.
Friends, for those of you who want to make noise while someone who doesn't agree with you is speaking, there are other people in the room who don't agree with people who support your position. This could turn into something that no one will be proud of. I ask that regardless of who is speaking, we remain quiet and respectful. We can do that. Thank you.
I'm Lauren Bond. I live on 335 Kensington Drive. Okay,
Welcome, Lauren.
Hi. Before I begin, I would like to say that earlier tonight, my sister left this room in tears due to the hostility and aggression created in this room by those in opposition to this field, which is outrageous and unacceptable. And the fact that my character, my sister's character, and my mother and father's character was attacked tonight.
Lauren, slow down. Slow down.
Uncalled for.
Take your time.
I'm sorry.
Take your time. Excuse me.
Completely uncalled for.
Take your time.
And on a lighter note, I would like to point out the great turnout by our town's young athletes. They are the future of this town for many years to come, and I cannot believe that they have to witness people trying to take away their opportunity to play the sports they love so much. I'm a sophomore at Ridgewood High School and a 3-sport athlete and high honors student. I've chosen to be here tonight because after living in Ridgewood and playing sports all my life, I've experienced how much field access, has had an effect on the game when it should not. And I have seen the conditions that the fields are left after storms, which is messy. I just returned from my high school softball game at IHA, which has a multi-purpose turf field, much like the one proposed tonight. I thought that the field was great, and during the game on the other side of the field, the girls lacrosse team was able to hold their practice without any interference. They put up a really nice fence and gave both teams the space they needed. I think that it is great that they're able to incorporate multiple sports into their field. I urge you to vote in favor of this multiple-purpose field that has been proposed tonight and to give the future of this town a chance to play the sport they love so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Very nice job.
Hello, my name is Lauren Cuneo. I live at 373 Mountain Ave. Before I begin, am I allowed to read something from someone else?
You are.
Okay. So I've spoken here twice as a representative of the Maroon Soccer Club, as a current board member and a parent of 3 athletes in town. I continue to be here in support of a large multi-use turf field. There is a field shortage in Ridgewood. It's very clear. We've talked about it many times in this room. Many different sports groups have supported this. We need more space for our youth to play freely, for our youth to play organized, for adults to play freely, for adults to play on organized teams. More importantly, we need dry land that everyone in Ridgewood can utilize. It's important to note that a small field will not maximize use across many sports. In fact, it will be limited to use of only soccer, the organization I'm here to support, for children 12 and under. Consider Stevens Field right now. That is a good example of a multi-use sports field built with turf within a neighborhood and, frankly, very limited parking. It is a large field that can be used by all. There is a large soccer field, a lacrosse field overlay, a football field overlay, as well as a baseball diamond overlay, in addition to 2 small-sided soccer field overlays. It is obvious a large field is the optimal size field to use for all in this town. There seems to be a lot of dispute over turf, and frankly, it is my understanding that the original plan was approved for turf. So please consider strongly the development in favor of a large turf-sided field for all of us to use and utilize. So this is the note that I'm bringing in from Chuck Handy, who lives at 695 Kingsbridge Lane. I apologize I cannot be there to speak. I'm at my daughter's first Ridgewood High School flag football game. I live at 695 Kingsbridge Lane, and I'm in support of a large-sized turf field. I was the Maroon Soccer Club president for 5 years, and I've coached within the RBSA organization for 10 years. I very much understand the need for a full-sided field and baseball diamond. I live less than a block away from the site and understand the implications it brings, but know in my heart the kids need more fields, as it is near impossible for administrators to schedule games. Thank you for consideration, and please note, my opinion is mine and not of my wife, Mary Lou Handy. Best regards, Chuck. Thank you.
Bill Bond, 335 Kensington Drive, 18-year resident of the village. What my daughter referenced earlier, who was in tears, was her twin sister left in tears because a woman thought it appropriate while waiting in line to refer to my wife
Bill,
as not being a
could
good
you speak into the microphone so we can
because
hear you?
while waiting in line, one of the people opposing Shedler felt it appropriate to reference to my wife as a bad mother and my children being rude.
That's disappointing.
It's more than disappointing.
So let me just add, I want to first of all thank the town council. I want to thank the village engineer and all those involved in the careful due diligence and planning on this project. I also want to correct a prior speaker. There is no 90-foot baseball diamond. Baseball has already lost. We're the only town, probably in all of New Jersey our size, who only has one 60-90 diamond, one true 60-90 diamond, which is at Vets Field. We have already lost. The other issue to remember is, it's been talked about multiple times, the weather patterns have caused serious flooding on our fields. We would all love to have 10 acres of flat, dry land up on a hill that didn't surround neighbors that we could turn into a field. There is no solution that will make everybody happy. I would urge the village council members, if you're considering voting no on the proposed large turf field, that you reconsider. And consider that your legacy will not be someone that stood up for a minority of people of one generation who don't want that in their backyard, but yet you'll be fighting against generations and future generations, tens of thousands of kids that will not have the opportunity to play sports. That will be your legacy if you choose to vote no. And choosing to vote no on turf is just an invalid argument when we already have 3 existing turf fields in the village. I don't see anyone up in arms over that. I don't see anyone calling to rip those up. It's time we vote to do the right thing, which is a large turf field. Everybody who comes up here wants to reference a specific meeting, a specific design from 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. That field was originally bought with the purpose of putting a 60-90 field and recreation and passive use. Any reconstruction of history otherwise is invalid. I urge you as a village council to do the right thing and vote for the large turf field. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Roger Williams. I am from Maidenhead, New Jersey. And I first want to congratulate the young woman who came up here and spoke, and I want to say that no one in this room would want to deny our youth the opportunity to play the sports that they love, and you would be encouraged to do so.
Let's all take a moment to applaud the young woman who came up here with great courage, regardless of your position. Thank you so much, Lauren. Everyone on both sides of this discussion is grateful that you came up. Please continue, and thank you for recognizing her.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On April 3rd, April 3rd meeting at 9:04 regarding this debate, Councilman Evan White stated, quote, "On the history piece, candidly, I've not found this one particularly persuasive," unquote. So, despite having a fully realized report from Hunter Research, a highly respected archaeological research firm, which has been endorsed by the chair of the New Jersey's Crossroads of the American Revolution, National Heritage Area, and other respected historical organizations, Councilman White says of the site that is listed with the New Jersey and the National Register of Historic Places that he is unilaterally better qualified to determine the history of this site in question. I can appreciate that the village and the residents want sports fields. The question is, why this field? Before you tear up this place, abide by the recommendations of a reputable firm respected by the New Jersey's historic community that has already studied that property. I repeat, a reputable firm respected by the New Jersey's history community. Mr. Weiss, you also stated that there is no win-win. But, Mr. Weiss, there actually is a win-win here. It is evident that those of us on this side of the dais, many of us on this side of the dais, that the majority of you on your side of the dais are appealing to the sports constituents, and we understand that. However, the citizens in the neighborhood, most of the citizens in the neighborhood here, as I see it, have been saying that there is a win-win, and that was the original plan. Wonderful park for families while respecting the historical significance of the ground. Ms. Millian used the term practical preservation, and that is the compromise. The point you are missing here is that by respecting the property, you can offer a place for all families, not only in Ridgewood, but throughout the region, to bring the children to come here and learn about Ridgewood's place in the founding of our nation, and yes, eat in Ridgewood's restaurants, shop in Ridgewood's stores, and supporting the community as a whole. Mr. Weiss, you may have done some homework, some history homework, but the constituents are explaining to you that your homework was incomplete. Now, why am I here? I'm the state historian for the New Jersey Society of the Sons of the American Revolution. I'm the president of the Princeton chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution, a former board member of the Princeton Battlefield Preservation Society, and an advisor to the American Battlefield Trust's Save Princeton Battlefield Project. At 10:12 in your last meeting, you offered Mr. Peter Primavera the opportunity, who stated that, quote, I worked on the Princeton battlefield 7 times since the early 80s. He explained, quote, we did massive historical research and massive amounts of archaeological research, unquote. Then I couldn't stop laughing when he stated that, quote, up to that point, no one had really reconstructed the Battle of Princeton. Really? Then he claimed that, quote, Princeton hired us on a number of occasions, and, quote, I've been involved for over 30 years. Well, I've been involved with Princeton Battlefield for over 50 years. And my only experience with Mr. Primavera is that rather than his rather notorious reputation in New Jersey's history community, but in all my years of Princeton, hearing from others who have been involved in the work that has accomplished by reputable firms that are respected.
Roger, please finish up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Respected firms. Mr. Primavera's name only came up once when he contacted our attorney offering to write a letter for work that we had already done. So I urge you to do your homework. You need to vet this guy.
Roger, thank you very much.
My name's Christina Millian. I live at 530 West Saddle River Road. I'm in support of a small grass field, and I object to the large field, and I object to a turf field. While I was also standing in line, someone asked me if I was going to come up here and talk once again for the 30th time about the issues that I'm concerned about with health and the size of the field and safety of my own kids. But the good news is, tonight, I'm going to talk about something else. The Green Amendment is on the agenda tonight, and I am here to read a letter from the Delaware Riverkeeper Network, who oversees that amendment, who says that you are unqualified to vote on it. Dear Mayor Paul, the Delaware Riverkeeper Network is writing to express our concerns regarding the recent decision of the Village of Ridgewood to sign the Green Amendment while also planning to remove acres of trees at the historic Shedler property for a turf sports field. This decision is in direct opposition to the principles outlined in the amendment, and we urge you to reconsider. As you know, it is the Delaware Riverkeeper Network, under the leadership of Maya Van Rosen, that the Delaware Riverkeeper that literally wrote the book about the need to adopt the Green Amendment. It is critical that governments at all levels support this initiative in its entirety, not selectively. The forest clearing and the installation of artificial turf has known and measurable negative impacts on groundwater, localized flooding, air quality, and habitat destruction and fragmentation. The potential risks to the health and well-being of the community and environment cannot be ignored. We implore you to prioritize the safety and health of the community and explore alternative options that are more environmentally friendly and sustainable. We find it hypocritical that the Council would sign the Green Amendment, which declares the need that clean air and water and a healthy environment is every Ridgewood resident's inalienable right, while simultaneously planning to undertake such substantially damaging environmental action. We hope that you will take our concerns into consideration and take action to protect the environment and the community. Sincerely, Fred Stein, Community Action Coordinator at the Delaware Riverkeeper Network. I'd also just like to say that I feel like through this whole conversation it's been pegged sports versus non-sports people. I played sports my whole life. I was like 5'10" in the first grade. Obviously, I'm going to be playing basketball of some sort. I got a full ride in college, and I also played ball overseas. I love sports. I want my kids to be in sports. It's not about sports versus regular residents, but if it is being pegged that way, it is because of this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. This will be our final speaker for public comment.
Paul, once again, since people let Mr. Damiano in without the other 9 people's permission, it's not fair for the 10th person to not be able to speak.
Lorraine, we have on occasion let people in the line I didn't let them in.
No, no, no.
So,
Other people let them.
Lorraine, this is the last. Excuse me. This is the last person.
Well,
Jackie.
I think we can, I know we have extended the courtesy before the people are online. We do give them first crack at the end of the evening.
Absolutely.
And I would certainly
Anyone?
suggest we do the same thing.
I agree completely. So those of you who are online, you have first crack at the end of the night.
Jacqueline Holm, 30 Carriage Lane. I will say that that's quite disappointing, because when this new effect of the 9 people, 10 people in the audience, I believe the public was promised that when it was a topic where there were a lot of people and it was a hot topic for the village, that there would be a vote, that the council can make a motion for other people to speak so that everyone is heard. And once again, not just in this case, on many cases in front of this council, Mr. Mayor is going back on his word. So it's very disappointing. We should all listen to that meeting and see what he said the first time, because it's a stark contradiction once again. On numerous occasions, the adverse effects of the proposed project were identified and provided to this council. It wasn't a question of whether there would be adverse effects. It is, in fact, there will be adverse effects. Groundwater resources, community water supply wells are located within 500 feet. Right now, that's not affected because there are 7 acres of trees that have been filtering that, and there was no turf field that was on that property, and there was no mowing of that lawn either. So that is definitely a huge impact that needs to be addressed and looked into. Air quality, again, the 7-acre trees were filtering out air pollution and roadway pollutants. There is a direct link between air pollution and adverse respiratory and cardiovascular health, and it is substantial. These aren't questions, these are statements, and we implore the village council, how do you vote on a plan when you don't even know what these impacts will be? You should know the impact and then create a plan that would address those impacts and mitigate the impacts on the community, not just the neighborhood, but the people playing on that field, the park users, and all residents that are going to be using this park, now field. Studies have been shown that there are other links between noise and health. That's not an if. We've provided numerous studies to this council that removing of those trees, that also exposes noise levels. PFAS, turf fields, that was also provided. Historical resources, undeniable, contrary to what some of the council members believe, as Mr. Rogers, who came from South Jersey, that's undeniable and it's existing. There's also wildlife habitat. There's also threatened and endangered species that has not been mentioned once here. They're state protected, and that's not being addressed. 60-foot netting on a field where there are threatened and endangered species, poor planning. Traffic patterns, no studies. Due process to residents.
Jackie,
I will
please
wrap
finish
it
up. Thank you.
I'm assuming this rush, as one of the council members have said, is because the application window for grants is closing. Well, that application process also demands that public involvement in the planning process by a public hearing be handled before the applications are submitted. So as the previous first commentator said, there's going to just be more holdups at that
Jackie,
level.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And now we're going to move on to our hybrid access participants. The first one being Denise Lima. Are you there, Denise? You're on mute. You're on mute, Denise. Remove yourself from mute. Still on mute. Let's go to our next person, and we can return to Denise. Robert Lynch.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Robert Lynch. I live at 40 Sherwood Road over in the village of Ridgewood. I just want to read a brief thing here. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening on the subject of the development of the Shedler property. I'm a 20-plus year resident of the village and a longstanding member of the Ridgewood Lacrosse Association's Board of Trustees. On behalf of the over 700 participants in the Ridgewood Lacrosse Association's youth programs, and assuming the over 200-plus continuing to play at the high school level, I just wanted to underscore the continued and increasing need for reliable field space within the village. As a community, we, I believe rightfully, encourage more and more children and adults to be more active and less sedentary. I doubt there is anyone in the room or on either side of the discussion that is opposed to that. The greatest health benefit of all is that we all get out there and be active. Encouragement alone is not enough. Encouraging alone is not enough. We need to invest in the infrastructure to support these endeavors. Simply put, we as a village need more full-size multi-purpose sports fields. I heard mention earlier in the discussion tonight of the girls' new flag football program over at the high school. While I can already tell you that this new sports program has begun to reduce the access of our youth lacrosse program, we at the RLA welcome its addition. It keeps with the mission of more people out moving and exercising, but it underscores the idea that we need more infrastructure to provide for it. I thank the council for their thoughtful consideration of this issue, and I thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Our next participant is Susan. Are you there, Susan?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
All right, great. Thank you. All right. Susan Ruan, 705 Kingsbridge Lane. I support a small grass field and object to the large size turf field. This is just a vague question. How many people here tonight live near Shedler? So for everyone who doesn't live beside Shedler will not be subject to the pollutants, contaminated water, or the constant highway noise, which is a health hazard and increased danger, dangerous traffic. You'll be able to go home after the ball games and drink cleaner water, breathe cleaner air, and sleep without highway noise, or walk down your street without the risk of death. Now I'm going on to a second point. Since the Ridgewood Council members plan to approve the large turf field like they did last week in the preliminary vote, besides Shedler, we have huge safety concerns, especially with the traffic. Unlike other exits off major highways, West Saddle River exit has no stop or slow down signage or other safety precautions to force cars to reduce their speeds entering the roadway. In 2015, Ridgewood Police conducted a traffic study on West Saddle River Road between June 25th and August 10th. They found that cars came off speeding the highway and continued traveling above the speed limit down the narrow road. The traffic study found the following results: 84% in June, 92% in August were above the speed limit. 58% in June, 66% in August were above 30 miles per hour. 26% in June and almost 30% in August were traveling over 35 miles per hour. Residents have repeatedly requested more comprehensive traffic study be conducted by an independent evaluator since Ridgewood Police conducted their observation when Ridgewood Public Schools were closed and families were away for vacation. Both dates are when schools were closed. Given that the statistics for speeding off the highway are very high and the limited 2015 study, residents request that an independent evaluator conduct a more comprehensive study when schools are in session and parents working to get an accurate data on the safety of West Saddle River Road, especially since a huge sports complex is going to be there and there will be young athletes. To place a huge sports complex directly off a major highway without any safety precautions is just a tragedy waiting to happen. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Susan. Next up is Leo.
Oh my God.
Leo, you're on mute. Here we go.
Hi, good evening. My name is Leo Ruan, 705 Kingsbridge Lane. I support a small grass field and I object to a full-size turf field. Part of the concerns of the residents of Ridgewood this year with the proposed plan is that there's been made seemingly without adequate due diligence on the part of the council and transparency to residents. The reasons for reopening the plan have never been adequately explained with facts or statistics which demonstrate any change in demand or need from what was the basis of the 2017 plan. While the 2017 plan was the result of an ad hoc committee, along with the council and village discussions and debate, the new plans have only been made at the request of the council, with residents being limited to 3 minutes of public comments regarding their concerns. And when residents have voiced their opinions and asked specific questions of council members, they have not been adequately answered. For this reason, I am bringing to this forum the unanswered questions raised by my neighbour, Matt Rossi, to Councilman Weiss to be answered by the village engineer several weeks ago. Without this type of due diligence and transparency on the part of the council, there should be no voting or adoption of a plan to schedule a property. Councillor Weiss and all the council, please provide answers from the village engineer to these questions and answers. As the council has asked to increase field size, do you feel confident your engineering team can adequately navigate all health, historic, safety, wildlife, and traffic concerns in redesigning this space? If not, what is your suggestion for areas where the village should source independent experts? What would you estimate grading depth would be for a larger field? Is the engineering department taking into consideration the results of the 2019 Phase IA archaeological assessment Zabriskie Shedler house and property during these redesigns and potential grading? If a turf field is installed, are you considering potential contamination to surrounding private wells? What testing would be needed for a turf field? For collation tests, sometimes require 150,000 gallon holding tanks for EEV testing. Would we need this? How would we accommodate this? Leaf collection during fall months further narrows West Saddle River Road. Do you think added traffic during these times would be problematic? What logic are you using when calculating ratio of field size to designated parking, and do you feel confident making these calculations? Can you outline what areas would have significant cost increases when considering a larger field? Noting that the town now has flood insurance on the property, are these flood implications to the neighbourhood with a new site plan and demolition of more trees? No plan should be adopted until clear answers to these questions are provided. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Ankit.
Hello, everyone. This is Ankit Daria, 471 West Saddle River Road. I moved into Ridgewood about 9 months ago with my family. The reason for our moving over to this great village was because of the historic nature, the great schools, and I've heard a lot about sports. Hearing all the back and forth that has been going on for the past 3+ months, what I feel is it's us against them that's been going on for the past 3 months. All I'm asking for is let's think as a community and look at for the safety that not only this side of the Shedler property as well as the other, for our kids, for older parents that live with me right now, and also the safety of the traffic regulations. I've seen multiple people driving over 50 miles per hour because I live on West Saddle River Road, and there was an accident just 2 weeks ago. So I urge that we get the answers that Leo just pointed out to all the questions that he had, so at least we make a proper decision on what kind of field we go with, and if there's no, and basically there's no health or safety for our kids that are going to be using the field. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Kevin. excuse me. Yes, Kevin.
Hi, this is Anna Shen from 147 West Glen Avenue.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Yeah, Kevin is my husband.
Okay.
So I'm using, yeah.
Forgive me.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. This is Anna Shen from 147 West Glen Avenue. I object the four-size turf because I think it's not safe, it's not a need, it's a want. We have 6 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 1 high school, all equipped with decent-sized fields. We also have the Citizen Park, Veterans Field, and sure, there are others that I missed. Why not find ways to utilize those existing spaces, but instead damage the environment of our village and build a new turf that's toxic and harmful to our kids? It's just not worth it. I support the 2018 plan of building a park with a playground and a small field and prioritize the remaining funds for things that add safety to our community. I live on a stretch of W. Glen without a sidewalk. I understand the improvement project for the sidewalk has been halted due to budgetary reasons. I have 2 elementary school kids always talking about biking to and from school and nearby parks, but we've never been allowed to do so simply because we don't feel safe to bike or even walk along that section of the road without a sidewalk. Therefore, I urge the village to prioritize the sidewalk project instead of the four-side sports turf. Let's work together to create a community that is supportive and safe, especially for our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Denise. Denise, you're on mute. There we go.
Hi, can you hear me today?
We can. We're good.
Apologize for that earlier. Thank you.
All good.
Wanted to provide some additional new information in lieu of
Please
the council
identify yourself.
Thank you, Heather. Sorry, Denise Lima, 319 East Glen Ave. There's public information that you can obtain online for the state of New Jersey, transportation and safety. And what they provide is year-over-year data on safety rates. They talk about injuries, they talk about crashes with fatalities, and it's broken down pretty detailed. It also breaks it down by mileposts. So you can see that within Route 17, from milepost 17 to milepost 1869, which is roughly 1.4 miles that goes by the stretch of Shedler, the data about the number of crashes. And despite 2020 being a COVID year and 2021, the number of crashes in that one simple stretch, which is 500 feet south of the West Saddle River Road exit up to the Hollywood Ave exit. So that's the very small stretch I'm talking about, both northbound and southbound. There was 91 crashes in that stretch last year, and it's been increasing 20%, 21%, even since COVID's, before COVID's, for the last 5 years. So those are statistics that, we should, again, it's a small stretch. This information is available, happy to share with everybody. But you can see that that's a dangerous part of the road, and that you should take some time out to figure out from a safety perspective what we're really going to do. The entranceway to the proposed park or the site plan is very short from when the people are coming off of Route 17. And I just think there's information there that people should look at. And I haven't heard that. So what I'm for is people getting together and another ad hoc committee working across the aisle and figuring out very quickly how can we resolve this as a community. Thank you.
Thank you. And Christine will be our final speaker at initial open public comment. Christine, you're on mute. Still on mute. Good.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. This is Christine Corbett. I'm at 405 Heights Road. I think a lot has already been said, but I don't have any real scientific data. I just want to express my concern. I live close to the part of West Glen with no sidewalks. I can walk safely to town. My neighbors can't. I would prioritize that. I realize not all the money can be moved to that, but I know that there's a crunch in the budget this year, and I don't see the need for a giant turf field. I don't think it's particularly safe. I think we need the trees. I think the smaller original field that was planned, whether it's turf or not, I think less turf is better. And I would just urge the council to consider either going back to the original plan or really taking their time before they move forward, because my daughter is not using the fields right now, but for years she did use fields for softball and soccer up until right before COVID. And I'm sure there's a crunch for the field space, but it didn't seem excessive or extreme to me. I know kids love to play sports, but I think we can accommodate them with what we already have. That's all I have.
Thank you, Christine. I want to thank everyone for their incredible participation tonight on both sides of this very difficult issue, and I really appreciate your respect so that we can conduct this meeting and come to conclusions based upon the information before us. Thank you. So now we're going to continue with our agenda, and we're going to go to our village manager's report.
Okay. Council chat is held every first Saturday of the month from 9 to 11 a.m. The next one will be Saturday, May 6th. Please call for reservations, 201-670-5500, extension 2207. Walk-ins are welcome. However, reservations have priority. Yard waste collection has begun. Please check the village calendar for your collection area. The Health Department will be hosting an educational program on Tuesday, April 18th from 1 to 2 p.m. at the Ridgewood Public Library Auditorium, and it's based on what exactly is a care manager. Come meet Tiffany Ewell, a care manager with Caring People Home Health Care, to learn what care managers do, how they do it, why it is beneficial to have one, and how to pay for one. Light refreshments will be provided. Registration is required. Please call the Ridgewood Health Department at 201-670-5500, extension 2313. The Health Department will be hosting its annual dog rabies clinic at Graydon parking lot on Wednesday, May 3rd. The clinic is from 6 to 7 p.m. Please have your dog on a leash. They will be conducting the clinic as a drive-by clinic again this year. As a reminder, all dogs 7 months or older must be licensed. Dog license renewals will be sent out via email the last week in April, and renewals are due before June 30th to avoid the late fee. Please contact the Health Department for more information. The Catchall Memorial Shell is celebrating their 65th anniversary. Please join them to celebrate on Wednesday, April 19th, all day at Steel Wheel Tavern. 20% of all proceeds from lunch and dinner will be donated to the Catchall Memorial Shell. There will be live music with Joe Orienti and Lisa Grace from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Online registration is now open for Graydon Pool and tennis and pickleball badges. Discounted rates are available through April 30th for Ridgewood resident adults and children. Visa or MasterCard is accepted, and a 3% convenience fee will be charged. Pre-season badge distribution or in-person assistance will be available at the Graydon Pool office beginning April 12th and April 17th from 4:30 to 7 p.m. at the stable, and May 14th and May 21st from 10 a.m. to 12 noon at Graydon Pool. New for 2023 season, families may now purchase a babysitter badge for $195. This badge can be used by live-in nannies, au pairs, multiple daily babysitters over the age of 18, or grandparents caring for the child that day. Please note that those in possession of this special badge may not enter the facility unless they are accompanying the child badge holder, and they are not permitted to bring guests during any visit to the pool. The RBSA Opening Day Parade will take place on Saturday, April 22nd. It will begin at 9 a.m. at the Ridgewood train station, continue down Ridgewood Avenue to Maple Avenue, and end at Veterans Field. Family Fun Day with bounce houses, vendors, and food trucks will take place after the parade at Veterans Field, and all are welcome to attend. The village's annual Earth Day and Daffodil Festival will be held on Sunday, April 23rd from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. The family-friendly event will feature a petting zoo and eco-friendly kids' crafts, games, and live music. Ridgewood Water will present Journey from Rain to Drain via displays and printed material. There will also be a Daffy Dog Parade for leashed costume dogs and their owners at 12:30 p.m. You must register at 12 noon. Prizes will be awarded for exceptional costumes. As a reminder, the 2-day-per-week irrigation ordinance is in effect. Odd-numbered addresses for irrigation is Tuesday and Saturday, and even-numbered addresses for irrigation is Wednesday and Sunday. No irrigation is allowed on Monday, Thursday, and Friday. Ridgewood Learn to Ride and Safe Skills bike course. Kids will learn how to ride a bike with the balance first approach. Instructors will teach kids how to balance and control their bikes with pedals removed. This course teaches youth basic skills to safely ride their bikes. It will be held May 13th at the Graden Pool parking lot. Ages 5 and over will be 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Safe bike skills, 3rd to 11th grade, 10:15 to 11:45 a.m. And Learn to Ride Session 1, ages 5 and over, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. The cost is $15 for Ridgewood residents and $30 for non-residents. You can register a community pass. Please only sign up for one session before May 5th. Spring into health with us during Ridgewood's 2023 Wellness Series, promoting healthy eating, exercising, financial literacy, environmental sustainability, mental health, and reducing stigma and increasing social support. As part of the wellness events, the Parks and Recreation Department is offering Chill Out Gentle Yoga on Mondays in May from 1:30 p.m. to 2:15 p.m. and Fishing to Free the Mind on Saturday, May 29th. 2 sessions to choose from, either 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. or 12:20 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Please register on Community Pass. Village Council upcoming meetings are broadcast live from this courtroom. It's on the Village website, Channel 34 on FiOS, also available on Zoom or by phone or YouTube. The Village Council work sessions are April 26th, May 3rd, and May 24th. April 27th is the budget hearing and adoption. May 10th is the Village Council public meeting. All meetings begin at 7:30 p.m. That's all I have.
Thank you, Heather. And now we'll go to Village Council reports. Evan, you want to kick it off?
In the interest of time, I'm going to waive my comments tonight. I know we have a bunch of speakers that want to speak later. I know we have a bunch of kids here who want to see us vote. So I'm going to waive my comments and would suggest my fellow council members also be brief tonight.
I think it's a good suggestion. And by the way, for those of you who are waiting in line, if you'd like to sit down, we will respect that you are the first people in line, and we'll take you later if you choose to. So just so you don't have to stand the entire time. Siobhan?
Sure. So, sorry, Evan, but I feel that I need to say this to the kids in the room. I grew up in Ridgewood. I went to Ridgewood High School, and the first time that I came to speak at a public council meeting was when they decided to suspend all on-street parking for around Ridgewood High School. I just bought a car. I had a job. I was the student rep. It was a very charged meeting, and I, too, lost my composure, but I continued, and so did you. And as a mom, I'm really impressed with you. I think it was amazing, and I just wanted to tell that story because I know how hard it is, and it gets easier, although some weeks I do want to cry up here, being honest. My council reports are on 4-4. I met with the Fields Committee. The conversation was largely around Shedler. Several members of the sports groups bought old renditions. There was a large discussion about the need that's been reiterated tonight. We also reviewed the opening of the bathroom out here on Vets Fields. Bathrooms are a critical part of our parks. People love it when there's a bathroom there. And we discussed the rollout of the Master Library, which is, since so many people here have an interest in fields, Master Library is a software tool that will replace a human being who does the online scheduling, and it'll allow us to allocate fields and balance it a little bit better. It will be a pilot, so I'm sure we will mess some of it up, and the organizations will be mad at first. It'll be some hiccups, but we will get it right. We have a very committed crew in Parks and Rec to rolling that out. We also had a large discussion about adult play at the Fields Committee, where several adult members of the community are expressing the need to be recognized within the fields policy for their need to play. Currently, a disproportionate amount of the fields are used by the kids, and adult recreation is seeking more playing time. Women's softball and an adult men's soccer league, and they've been showing up fairly religiously. On April 11th, I met with the Shade Tree Commission downstairs in the garden room, and we had a wonderful, productive meeting with celebrity guest Matt Rogers. I'm pleased to announce that Carolyn Jacoby is the new chair for the Shade Tree Commission, and I'm so grateful about that. We talked about many things, including that shade tree and their idea of trees will be featured in the 2024 calendar. We talked about additional sources of revenue and inspiration of trees, a possible Adopt a Sapling Day, and Earth Day. It was a very productive meeting. The Shade Tree Commission's been without bylaws. We adopted bylaws. We'll be posting them on the website, and I'm grateful to everybody. We too discussed Shedler, and they were mostly concerned with the death of the plants on the berm, which is obviously seriously concerned because they were intended to be buffers, and we're hoping that that is followed up on and we can see how many have actually died. Today, I attended the Ridgewood Public Library with Deputy Mayor Pam Perrin, where the Friends of Library held their 3rd annual author luncheon. It was lovely. We're very grateful to Friends for all that they do to raise money to offset everything that we do at the library. Our library would not be as beautiful if we didn't have the exceptional volunteerism that we do and the commitment to learning, books, and community. And then I did just want to mention that this weekend, the Guild is doing a pop-up, and everything is under $50. It's on Main Street. The location is a vacant location. It's going to allow us to dust off little vacancy in Main Street.
Ridgewood Avenue?
Yeah, on Ridgewood Ave, next to Bear Burger. So I'm hoping everybody can go. It's a very wonderful thing. There's a myriad of local stores. Everything will be under $50, and hopefully if anybody's thinking about renting any real estate, it'll be a chance to take a little look inside a retail location that's been vacant. That's it.
Thank you. And I'm glad you recognized that you started here when you were a young girl. And I want to remind everyone that we have many small children in the room. So when we make our remarks, let's just all be aware of that. Lorraine.
Thank you. First, I'd like to apologize to all the residents that we have a cutoff for public comment. In my opinion, we have public meetings so that we can hear our residents. I would like to hear everybody, but that's another story. Project Pride Committee met on Monday, April 10th. We had several new members, and it was an exciting and robust meeting with lots of new ideas. Our Project Pride Sunflower Award will be given out again this year, starting towards the end of June. 6 awards will be given out every 2 weeks. 5 awards will be given to residents, and this year, for the first time, 1 award every 2 weeks will be given out in the Central Business District. We hope that this will really encourage the shop owners to promote some beautiful designs on their front doors and their front area. The awards this year also come with, last year they came with just a little note to thank you, but this year they're coming with a $25 gift card from one of the businesses downtown. Tony Damiano, who was here earlier, was instrumental in bringing that to the Guild, his Guild board, and they approved his suggestion. So 36 different businesses in town will offer a $25 gift card, which will be a prize for the Project Pride Award. Our CBD plant date is going to be May 21st. If anybody wants to help, please email me at lreynolds@ridgewoodnj.net. It's a very short time commitment. It's 2 to 3 hours on Sunday morning, May 21st, and we can take as many people as want to volunteer. Cash or Shell Committee met on April 5th. As Heather said, they're having a fundraiser at Steel Wheel Tavern on April 19th. Glenn Carlo, the owner, has generously pledged 20% of all the proceeds from lunch and dinner to support the Cash or Shell. Live music from 5 to 6:30 with Joe Oriente and Lisa Grace, and more live music after that. So please come down and support Cash or Shell by going to Steel Wheel on April 19th. The Citizen Safety Advisory Committee will be meeting next Thursday, April 20th at 7:30 in the Garden Room. Tonight we will be voting on 2 very controversial items at the end of the meeting: the Shedler Plan and the hiring of a historic preservation specialist for the Shedler Plan. I'm sad to say that this council seems to be extremely hypocritical in their thinking. On one hand, we have proclamations tonight for Tree Planting Month, National Drinking Water Week, No Mow May. We're also introducing ordinances to charge our residents a PFAS treatment charge, and amend our smart controller times to encourage water conservation. Our years-long plan to remove PFAS in our drinking water is a $100 million project. $100 million that we're going to be spending on trying to remove PFAS. We are authorizing a shared services agreement with Glen Rock and Washington Township for use of our styrofoam densifier, which saves a lot of space in landfills, and the styrofoam can be reused. It's a wonderful environmental object, or, promotion. We are supporting the Green Amendment, which supports the right to safe drinking water, clean air, a healthy environment, and the preservation of the natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic qualities of the environment. These are rights that every single person should have, East Side and West Side. And I believe if we vote on the plan before us tonight, we are taking those rights away from those people. There will be nothing left on that land except a field. We need, and they need, trees to protect them from Route 17. Scott, I love you. You're my neighbor. I've known you for almost 30 years. But you said, what did you say? There's no difference in playing in your backyard than on the Shedler field. That is not true. All of the trees there were a buffer from those people, for those people. Now there will be no buffer. So all of the...
Excuse me. Please, everyone. Excuse me. Please. This will degrade quickly, and so we're not going to do that. Continue.
All right. Okay. Let's see. We are accepting donations tonight for the planting of trees and a beautiful grove in memory of our beloved Linda McNamara. These are all wonderful, environmentally friendly issues. And then on the other hand, if the council votes to move this forward, this plan, it's in opposition of all of those items that I just mentioned. We will be tearing down, additionally, hundreds of trees, harming our residents' right to clean air, safe drinking water, preservation of the natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic qualities of the environment. We really do have to remember the history that took place there. It's a shame that we would be forgetting our history. In 50 years from now, I don't think anybody's going to say, well, thank goodness we dug up all the artifacts and we didn't care and we didn't do the archaeological studies and we didn't do the traffic studies and we didn't do any other studies, but we have a field. I think it's going to be the other way around, and we're all going to be very sorry. So as far as I'm concerned, everybody up here talks the talk, but we need to start walking the walk. We need to stop the madness of continually destroying every square inch of open space we have left. Habernacle is a beautiful example of a community that came together. It looks natural. There's fields. There's open space. This property, if this plan goes through, I mean, you just look at the plan and you can see that the field is squeezed in. On one side, it's right next to the road. On the other side, it's right next to the next property. On the other side, it's right against the berm. And on the other side, it's right against the house. There is no space surrounding it whatsoever. We need to preserve and protect our natural habitats, our history, and our residents' quality of life. Quality of life is key. The residents there will have no quality of life. It's not always easy to do the right thing, but we need to do what is right tonight, here, and now. We need to protect what few pieces of nature we have left in our beautiful village. We need to say no to tearing down of hundreds of trees. We need to say no to artificial turf that will contaminate our neighbors' wells with PFAS. We need to say no to the full multipurpose field and turf. We need to say no to destroying and disturbing the bald eagles and the black-crowned night heron, which are under the state endangered and state threatened status. We need to say yes to protecting, preserving, and growing our trees, clean air, clean water, and natural habitats. If we don't, how are we going to explain this to our children? I understand that you need more fields. I will not deny that. But you can't take a property that's this big and put a field this big on it and destroy somebody else's neighborhood. There has to be a compromise, which there was. It was agreed upon. The sports people, the neighborhood, the council, the parks department, everybody agreed on it, and now everybody's reneging on it. It's a very sad lesson for our kids to learn and for our residents to learn. So I guess that's about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
Paul, could I just say something? Because as you know,
you know what? We're gonna keep this moving for just a moment.
Okay, I have four questions though for the council prior to when we got here.
Let's just keep this moving at the moment because we can let this degrade. So, forgive me, Pam, your council report.
Four questions.
On a happier note, Easter in the Park was glorious this weekend, brought to us by the Chamber of Commerce. And Margie Downs and I had the fun job of passing out chalk to people who could write or draw on the sidewalk next to veterans, next to Memorial Park at Van Ness Square. And one of the things somebody wrote was, "Thanks, this was fun, do it again next time." So we will. It was also the first time since COVID that they could have an Easter egg hunt. The kids were wild with happiness. It was so much fun. Green Ridgewood is gearing up for the Daffodil Festival and Earth Day Fair on the 23rd, as Heather mentioned. The theme is our new master plan. And so we are going to have various exhibits telling people about the master plan and how it is going to be implemented. And so you don't have to rent a child just to go to this event. It will be educational and fun in and of itself without the petting zoo, which is also fun. I also wanted to mention the Schoolhouse Museum. I don't know if you've been there, but it is one of Ridgewood's gems, and that is a historical repository of so many things that happened in Bergen County and in Ridgewood. And it is going to be celebrating its 150th anniversary. And the Ridgewood Historical Society and Schoolhouse Museum are going to be having a gala for a fundraiser for this wonderful museum on May 18th, 6:30 to 10:30. It's a dinner dance night out. It's going to be held at Felina. And if you would like to get tickets, you can sign up at ridgewoodhistoricalsociety.org. And so that's going to be a great event. A couple of us from Green Ridgewood went to the Bergen County public hearing on the county's master plan. And that was very interesting. It did pass. And so Green Ridgewood will be looking at the environmental guidelines there and comparing it to what we have in our municipal master plan. And let's see, the Central Business District Advisory Committee meets tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. in this building in the senior lounge downstairs. We're going to be learning about the Chamber of Commerce's new 5-year strategic plan. The public is welcome to attend. I think it will be very interesting. And I did want to say the author luncheon was just terrific. It touched on so many topics, from horse racing to the Civil War to what to do when you lose your spouse. It was just a very emotional, meaningful luncheon. And if you can catch it next year, do so. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Pam, and I'm going to make my remarks as brief as I possibly can. I'm going to skip over a lot of things, but I have to comment on Easter in the Park. I went for the very first time, and I brought my 3-year-old granddaughter. It started at 11 a.m., and Joan Broom, the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce, who deserves a round of applause every single day, laid out 10,000 Easter eggs with candy in them. We got there at 11 a.m. It started at 11 a.m. They were all gone at 11 a.m. Every one. So there were over 1,000 people at this event. It was absolutely wonderful. This is something you should rent a kid for so that you can go and see. It was terrific. I wanted to comment that the YMCA is having their annual gala on April 27th. I will be in attendance. It's a fundraiser, and I urge you all to go online, buy a ticket, 2 tickets. It's really a great event, and it's for our own YMCA. And as far as the Chamber of Commerce, I attended their meeting this morning, and they are in the throes of elections, and so they will be electing a new board and new officers, and the installation dinner will be at Steel Wheel on June 13th, which is the first time they will be having an installation dinner since the beginning of COVID, so everyone is excited about that. Stigma-free, which I just can't let them go without commenting, again, as I always do, what a fabulous group this is. They will be having a stigma-free symposium, which is a focus on mental health on May 3rd at 8:30 a.m. at Biagio's. And they will also be having a Unity in the Community event at Overpeck Park on July 29th, and in conjunction with the Ridgewood Fire Department on April 19th from 8:30 to 4:30, there will be a mental health symposium for first aid and first responders at the firehouse here in Ridgewood. If you are interested in any of these programs and some of the programs that Heather mentioned, they are all on our website, and they are under the health department. And that's, one last thing. The IT guy who heads our IT department, who came in earlier and got us all set up, it is his 42nd birthday. So let's all give him a round of applause. Thank you. We're going to leave it. And now we're going to move on to our regular agenda. So, I move that the clerk read Ordinance 3945 by title on second reading, and that the public hearing thereon be opened.
Second. Oops, sorry.
Perrin.
Sorry.
Good.
Perrin.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Whites.
Yes.
Winograd.
Yes.
And Vagianos.
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of Ordinance 3945?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 145 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, fees, at Section 145-6, enumeration of fees relating to code chapters.
The public hearing is now open. I move that the public hearing be closed, seeing no one coming to the microphone.
Pam, you have the second because you did it.
That's right.
You did it the first time.
That's right.
You have to
All right,
continue
second.
it.
Sorry.
Perrin.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Whites.
Yes.
Winograd.
Yes.
And Vagianos.
Yes.
I move that Ordinance 3945 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
I second the motion.
Perrin.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Whites.
Yes.
Winograd.
Yes.
And Vagianos.
Yes. I move the clerk read Ordinance 3940 by title on third reading, and that the public hearing thereon be continued.
Second.
Perrin.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Whites.
Yes.
Winograd.
Yes.
And Vagianos.
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of Ordinance 3940?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 269 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Water, at Article 4, Irrigation Schedule and Water Emergencies.
The Village Council continued the public hearing on Ordinance 3940 from the March 8, 2023 public meeting to this evening so that questions about the smart controllers could be answered. Ordinance 3940 was discussed at the March 22, 2023 work session, and the Village Council agreed that under the add portion in Section 269-48E, the wording, quote, on the permissible day, end quote, should be deleted and should be read as follows. Irrigation shall not be conducted between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. on any day. Irrigation using automatic systems, including smart controllers, may only be used between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. Since this is not a substantive change to the ordinance, I ask for a motion to amend Ordinance 3940 as I just stated.
I move that Ordinance 3940 be amended as stated by Mayor Vagianos.
I second the motion.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Whites,
Yes.
Winograd,
Yes.
and Vagianos.
Yes. The public hearing on Ordinance 3940 as amended is now continued. Seeing no one at the mic, I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Whites,
Yes.
Winograd,
Yes.
and Vagianos.
Yes.
I move that Ordinance 3940 as amended be adopted on third reading and final publication as required by law.
I second the motion.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Whites,
Yes.
Winograd,
Yes.
and Vagianos.
Yes.
The following resolutions, numbered 23-124 through 23-125, will be adopted by a consent agenda with one vote by the Village Council. They will be read by title only. Award Professional Services Contract, Engineering Design and Permitting Services, Southside Meter Chamber Interconnection. New Jersey Infrastructure Bank, iBank, Short-Term Financing, Construction of PFOA and PFAS Treatment Plants. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Whites,
Yes.
Winograd,
Yes.
and Vagianos.
Yes. I move the first reading of Ordinance 3942.
Oh, second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Whites,
Yes.
Winograd,
Yes.
and Vagianos.
Yes. So ordered. Will the clerk please read Ordinance 3942 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 3, Article 2 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood entitled Village Council at Section 5 entitled Annual Organization and Section 6 entitled Mayor, Deputy Mayor, President Pro Tem.
I move that Ordinance 3942 be adopted on first reading and that May 10th, 2023 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
I second the motion.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Whites,
Yes.
Winograd,
Yes.
and Vagianos.
Yes. I move the first reading of Ordinance 3954.
A second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Whites,
Yes.
Winograd,
Yes.
and Vagianos.
Yes. So ordered. Will the clerk please read Ordinance 3954 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 265 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Vehicles and Traffic, at Section 265-20, no stopping, standing, or parking, and Section 265-66, Schedule 16, no stopping, standing, or parking.
I move that Ordinance 3954 be adopted on first reading and that May 10th, 2023 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
I second the motion.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Whites,
Yes.
Winograd,
Yes.
and Vagianos.
Yes. I move the first reading of Ordinance 3955.
Have a second?
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Whites,
Yes.
Winograd,
Yes.
and Vagianos.
Yes. So ordered. Will the clerk please read Ordinance 3955 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 145 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood fees at Section 145-6, fees related to code chapters.
I move that Ordinance 3955 be adopted on first reading and that May 10th, 2023 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. I move the first reading of ordinance 3956.
I second.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. So ordered. Will the clerk please read ordinance 3956 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 133 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, refuse containers, at Section 133-4, application for permit fees, term regulations. I want to note that in the add section, it's Section C, the second paragraph, it does indicate a permit shall be required prior to the placement of any refuse container on private property. However, if the period of time for the placement of the, and then there's the word dumpster, we should replace that with the word refuse container. Is less than 1 calendar week, there will be no permit fee required, but a permit shall still be required. So again, we are going to replace the word dumpster with the words refuse container. May I have a motion to amend the ordinance in that way?
I move that ordinance 3956 be adopted as amended.
No. This is just to make a motion to amend it in the way I just discussed.
All right, so moved.
Okay, may I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay. Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. I move the first reading of ordinance 3957.
I second.
No, now we have to say,
No.
I move that
All right.
ordinance.
Sorry.
Now I have the motion. Go ahead.
All right, I'm waiting for this. I move that ordinance 3956 be adopted as amended on first reading and that May 10, 2023 be fixed as a date for the hearing thereon.
And you second.
I second the motion.
Thanks. Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. Okay. Now, I move the first reading of ordinance 3957.
I second.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. So ordered. Will the clerk please read ordinance 3957 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 18 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Green Ridgewood Committee at Section 18-4, composition terms.
I move that ordinance 3957 be adopted on first reading and that May 10th, 2023 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
You second.
I second the motion.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 3946 by title on second reading and that the public hearing thereon be opened.
Second.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3946?
Calendar year 2023, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank, NJSA 48:4-45.14.
The public hearing is now open.
Now, just to be clear, this doesn't count for my second public comment.
Absolutely
right?
not.
Okay, because
Does not count.
I'm first in the bad line. Okay, so it's Lori Weber, 235 South Irving Street, and I'm wondering if you could just, it's the first I'm seeing of this, unfortunately, but I'm wondering if you could give a little bit of an explanation of how a village council uses a cap bank. I know with the Board of Education, because they have a limit of 2% tax levy, not including waivers, without triggering a vote, if they came in under that 2%, let's say they raised the tax levy 1%, not including waivers, they could save that other 1% and add it on for the next, I think, 3 years in a row. So I'm wondering, because maybe I'm a little, green, but I didn't realize that the village council had any kind of a statutory limit on raising the tax levy. So I'm not sure how a banked cap would work, and I'm just wondering if you could just, maybe enlighten us a little bit.
I will defer to Heather.
Yeah, what I can do is just let you know that we do adopt this every single year. I don't have the particulars, however, I'll certainly have Mr. Rooney, our CFO, get in touch with you. And I don't have definite information as you had about the Board of Education. but it is something where we do put aside, we can put up to 3.5% over the previous year's final appropriations in the interest of promoting health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. So it's for additional money as a cap bank. But again, I don't have enough of the particulars, so I'll certainly have Mr. Rooney reach out to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you, Lori. I move that the public hearing now be closed.
Second.
Perrin? Yes. Reynolds?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3946 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
Need a second.
I second the motion.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 3948 by title on second reading and that the public hearing thereon be opened.
I second.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3948?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 26 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Green Team, at Section 26-2, Purpose, and Section 26-3, Membership, Terms of Office.
The public hearing is now open. I move that the public hearing be closed.
I second.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3948 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
I second that motion.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 3949 by title on second reading and that the public hearing thereon be opened.
Second.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3949?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 145 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood fees at Section 145-6, enumeration of fees relating to code chapters.
The public hearing is now open. I move that the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3949 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
I second the motion.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes.
The following resolutions, numbered 23-126 through 23-147, will be adopted by a consent agenda with one vote by the Village Council. They will be read by title only. Award contract, road resurfacing and repairs. Title 59 approval, irrigation system services, parks and recreation. Award contract, irrigation system services. Title 59 approval, horticultural supplies. Award contract, horticultural supplies. Title 59 approval, emergency escape stairs, streets division. Award contract, emergency escape stairs, streets division. Award contract under state contract, diesel fuel and unleaded gasoline. Award contract under state contract, tree inventory phase 2. Award professional services contract, Safe Routes to School grant, final design phase. Authorized shared services agreement, use of styrofoam densifier with Glenrock. Authorized shared services agreement, use of styrofoam densifier with Washington Township. We support green amendment to the New Jersey State Constitution. Authorize execution of deed notice, Hudson Street Garage. Accept donation, sports fields upgrades. Accept donation, repairs to Lower Hawes Field. Accept donation, planting of trees. Accept donation to 2023 general operating budget. Accept donation, Linda's Grove. Amend 2023 dates for dining corrals and pedestrian plaza. Appoint members to Pride Day Committee. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. I want to take a moment to just comment on our styrofoam densifier, which our solid waste recycling coordinator urged us to purchase. It is a wonderful, wonderful machine, and we will now be using it as a shared service that the village will be able to recoup its investment. And it's something that I think everyone should come down. I urge parents to bring their kids to the recycling facility and speak to Sean. He would love to show it off.
And bring your styrofoam. It's a hard styrofoam that you pack televisions and things like that in. So the following resolutions, number 23-148 through 23-149, will be considered separately and read in full. Approved plan for Shedler Park.
So moved.
No, I have to read it in full.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jump the gun.
Be resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the conceptual design plans labeled as Concept 24 and attached to this resolution for the proposed use of the Shedler Park property shall consist of the following: a varsity-sized lacrosse and soccer artificial turf field overlaid with a regulation softball field, small-sized baseball field, walking paths, playground, restroom facilities with an overhang for shelter from lightning, parking, and trees, as prepared by the Village of Ridgewood Department of Public Works Engineering Division, be and is hereby approved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood, and be it further resolved that this resolution is adopted pursuant to the authority of NJSA 59:4-6. Now.
So moved.
I second.
Okay. Perrin.
Well, before I vote, I want to say that every week there's something else out there about artificial turf, and this week I was reading the EPA's PFAS Strategic Roadmap, EPA's commitment to action 2021 to 24. And their introduction and conclusion is every level of government, federal, tribal, state, and local, needs to exercise increased and sustained leadership to accelerate progress to clean up PFAS contamination, prevent new contamination, and make game-changing breakthroughs in the scientific understanding of PFAS. I'd like to note that in 2017 and 2018, none of us had ever heard about PFAS. This is a game changer. This report goes on to say, EPA's decisions regarding PFAS will be grounded in scientific evidence and analysis. The current body of scientific evidence clearly indicates that there are real, present, and significant hazards associated with specific PFAS, but significant gaps remain related to the impacts of other PFAS on human health and in the environment. Regulatory development, either at the state or federal level, would greatly benefit from a deeper scientific understanding of the exposure pathways, toxicities, and potential health impacts of less studied PFAS. This is why I'm in favor of building a field now and dealing with artificial turf later. Just because PFAS is ubiquitous doesn't mean that we should throw our hands up and say, well, we can't do anything about it. No, the cosmetics industry is doing something about it. The apparel industry is doing something about it, and we have an opportunity to do something about it. I think we owe that to our kids and to everybody who plays on that field. Even if, well, there's also another article from Murphy and Warner, and this is a peer-reviewed article in the Environmental Pollution Journal, and they point out also that we don't know enough. We just don't know enough. The EPA and Center for Disease Control has set up registries around the country to track what effect PFAS might have on humans. That could take years. And the other thing is, if you want conclusive scientific evidence, you would do a double-blind randomized study. We can't do that. It would be unethical to do that with humans. And so we are left dealing with a registry that collects data after the fact, after the harm has happened. I don't want to do that on my watch. Even if there weren't public health issues here, there are environmental issues. And from what I'm reading, artificial turf is created in several layers, so many layers that it is effectively an impervious surface. That means runoff. And the chemicals that are used for building the artificial turf go into our waterways, and all those downstream people have the benefit of these really harmful chemicals. The useful life of artificial turf is 8 to 15 years, and then you have to dispose of it. And here we are trying to make room in landfill by taking out the styrofoam, but we're putting back the disposable, the carpet that will never biodegrade within our lifetimes. Also, you all know that artificial turf is much harder to play on than grass. And if you look at the master plan heat island map of Ridgewood, you'll see that wherever we have those 3 artificial turf fields already, the heat is increased. And we're going to do the same thing over at Shedler. I don't think that's wise. And let's see. If you interpret the resolution from 2018 to say that the community and the council agreed on a small field and that it be artificial turf, well, things have changed since then. Now we know that this gas, this solid, this liquid is really potentially bad for not only humans, but fish, oysters, insects. And of course, this all comes up the food chain, right? So I think that's another point. Oh, and if you think that this is dry land, please bear in mind that there is a berm there that will ensure that water doesn't run off in that direction, and it'll just keep it closed in. You know, with flooding, we've not had good experience with artificial turf. So for those reasons, I am voting no.
Okay. Reynolds?
Thank you, Pam. If I wasn't convinced already, you would have convinced me. I appreciate all that information. One other thing I wanted to add is if we did, and I find it ironic that we are calling it a small-sided field. The field that was approved in 2018 was 50 yards by 75 yards, which is 150 feet by 225 feet. That is not so small. So what I wanted to say is if we went ahead and had that field, our engineer told us that he's pretty sure this would pass right through SHPO. We could start construction. We'd have a field by the end of the year. The other way, with the turf field, with the size of it, with everything else, I've been told by SHPO, it's a 2 to 3 year process. So think about that. Another 2 to 3 years looking at what you're looking at now. We're going to try and hire a consultant who apparently says they can get anything past SHPO, but according to the people that I have spoken with at SHPO, it will be a 2 to 3 year process. So I would like to go with the plan from 2018 with what everybody's calling a small-sided grass field. I don't think it's small. And so for that reason, I'm voting no.
Whites?
Yeah, so as I mentioned last week, there is no win-win here. However, I do support the larger turf field. On the issue of safety, also, as I said last week, when this field is built with turf, there will be several uniforms, or at least 1 or 2 uniforms on that field that look very similar to uniforms that are worn by the kids that are here tonight, except those uniforms will have my last name on it. So when we talk about health and safety, understand that when I talk about my kids being on that field, I'm not speaking figuratively, I'm speaking literally. I've looked at the evidence, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for my colleagues Pam and my colleagues Lorraine. However, it's inconclusive. The fact is we have 3 turf fields right now that our kids play on. Anybody who has kids who goes to games outside of Ridgewood knows that virtually every other field that we play on of any large sort is a turf field, and I don't hear anyone saying that we should be ripping those fields out or immediately stopping our kids from playing on those fields. And I think until the evidence is strong enough that that's what we need to do, I fully support the arguments in favor of less pesticides, less water. It is much safer after it has rained. Anyone that has seen a field that's used all day after a rainstorm knows how easy it is to injure yourself because you get divots, and they're an absolute mess and they're unusable. So respectfully, I don't agree with the safety argument. In terms of history, as I said last week as well, we need to respect history, but we also need to plan for the future. Generations of kids will be playing on this field. That is a legacy that I am very comfortable owning and being a part of. You know, everybody talks here about doing the right thing, and I feel very comfortable that is what we're doing here tonight. Undisputed that we need more fields. It's undisputed that this field, this property was purchased by the village several years ago for millions of dollars, largely to save this property from commercialization in order to safeguard the neighbors from having to look at another strip mall. That was the right decision to make. However, it was the village of Ridgewood that bought this property, and this property has to serve the greater needs of the village of Ridgewood. And over the last several months, having had the benefit of listening to my friends who support one side, my friends who support the other side, I've come to the reluctant but very strong conclusion that a large turf field is absolutely appropriate there. It is absolutely needed, and I proudly vote yes on this resolution and ordinance.
Winograd?
Sure. So I didn't write out all my comments because I basically said them last week, but I wanted to address some things. You know, being new here, and people will call you a politician, and technically we are, that I want to have some thoughts out with this council. It's interesting to me that the election has forced this issue that's been lingering in our community for too long. I think everybody, no matter what side you're on, would agree it was an important, good purchase, and it's just lingered for absolutely too long. It's something that Ridgewood really struggles with. We have other issues like the town garage on Franklin, and this issue, the longer it's gone on, the more fractures there are in the conversation, the more plans there are, the more versions there are. I ran on a campaign to address lingering issues, and upon taking my seat, I became the parks liaison, the fields liaison, and I had the opportunity to hear a lot of people. I always supported the development of Shedler, not just the field. I have supported the house, the walking path, the playground, which will clear the diversion for our town, a diversion that has affected the neighborhood I live in since the 1980s. The idea that Shedler Park is just about a field and just about a turf is unfair to the conversation. I also don't like to typically go back. We all actually get along, and we're in closed session, we have things, but it's stunning to me that the conversation from up here is not honest. 3.5 acres of trees have already been removed. It's not 7 acres of trees. And prior to Evan and I getting there, they were removed. It's just a fact. So we love trees. People move to Ridgewood because they love trees. Everybody loves trees. What we should be talking about is taking the additional capital we requested and stuffing trees into the park wherever we can fit them around the field that we will build. But we don't. We took a very complicated, expensive project and we made it about a field. And that, to me, is disappointing. If it wasn't going to be turf, why for 5 years did the community think the ad hoc presentation, which included turf, was accepted? And why wasn't the prior council shepherding it? No matter what we agree here, we don't have approval from SHPO, and those things were not forced. The house is an important part of this. During my campaign, we talked about Health Barn, and what makes Health Barn special is, that park, Habernickel, is made special by the presence of that gatehouse. We've put money in there. We have a stunning amount of money in this house, and we never discuss it. I want to acknowledge, because people will do it for me, I have changed my mind on the size of the field. Many people, many facts led me to that, but the emotional distress it causes our children in our community when the flooding exists, the condition, the fact that we were able to clean and restore the turf fields faster and less expensive than the grass is appealing to me. So I fully support the field, the larger side, the turf that, for those who are telling the narrative, was included in the 2017. But I most importantly am going to vote yes on the development of a park. Earlier tonight, we had a withdrawal of a donation, which is by no judgment. I want to say that's a good thing in our project management since this council changed. We have to be very clear with the community when we take money regarding projects. And last year, prior to this council changing, regarding the most expensive capital project in our town, a check was received, and it wasn't disclosed to the public. 2 plans were submitted to SHPO, and they weren't discussed to the public. So I know people won't be happy with the net here, and I know some people will be very happy. What I'm happy about, and I want all of us to understand this conversation happened out in front, and it happened here, it happened week after week, and people will take parts of what we said and distort it or reward it, and that's not what I'm about. Shedler is an important piece of property. There are questions that I, too, could take aim at council members, but I don't want to. I want our next step to be to address the house, because let's be honest, the field costs less than the house, and we are putting money into a house, and we have no future intended use, and the organization that has just shepherded it doesn't seem to want to help us preserve it with that money. So I'm voting yes, and I'm respectfully asking that the House be added to the discussion for the next work session.
Vagianos.
It makes me so happy to see so many children in the room watching government at work, watching as we discuss a partisan divided issue. This is how it works, and this is your first lesson, and it affects your life. So I am thrilled that you are here. I am thrilled that everyone is here, those who agree and those who disagree. The one thing I have said from the beginning is that our fields are a shared responsibility. There are 15 communities that currently share that responsibility. My home is across the street from one of them. And this is something that we must all share in. And as Evan said, this was bought with funds from the entire village, not one small section. And the entire village needs to have the opportunity, if needed, to utilize this piece of property. And what comes to mind is the coach who runs the softball program in town, who came and said at that microphone, I don't have enough fields to schedule all of my teams. And the other coach who came with his children and said, all of our practices are in Waldwick. Imagine a community like Ridgewood, and we have to go to our neighboring towns to have practices, and that we don't have enough fields. And that the intent of this property when it was purchased was to help the neighborhood so that they wouldn't be facing a gas station or a strip mall. And so, and as for trees, Siobhan said it best. Those who speak about all the trees that are going to be taken down, most of the trees have already been taken down, and very few more will be taken down. But most of them have been taken down, and that exposes the property more. We will be planting plenty of trees on this property. As to the PFAS issue, Pam used the word carpeting that will one day be disposed of that has PFAS in it. The carpeting that you are all sitting on has PFAS in it that will one day be disposed of. The carpeting in your homes all has PFAS in it. The uniforms that these young people are wearing has PFAS in it. Your cooking utensils, your food packaging, your dental floss, all has PFAS. As for the flooding and the bad experiences that we have had with turf fields, that is probably the main driver for building this field where it is. All of our other major fields are in a floodplain. This is not in a floodplain. When that floodplain collapses, when it is underwater, it wreaks havoc on the entire program for all of our youths. For that reason, I am voting in support of this motion.
Okay, I'll read the next resolution. Award contract, cultural resource management, and historic preservation specialists. Be resolved by the Village Council of Village of Ridgewood that a contract for the services of a cultural resource management and historic preservation specialist for the Zabriskie Shedler House and the Shedler property is hereby awarded to Peter Primavera Partners, LLC, P.O. Box 2037, Westfield, New Jersey, in a total amount not to exceed $8,600, and be further resolved that the initial steps will include due diligence to gather essential information on the Shedler property, including designations, restrictions, condition, permitting, and municipal plans, identify all regulatory approvals, analyze the National Register nomination and the process that was followed, identify opposition to and those not opposed to it, and coordination with the project team. And be it finally resolved that the Chief Financial Officer has certified that funds are available to fund the full amount of the contract in 2023. May I have a motion?
Sorry. My mic wasn't on. Second.
Okay. Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
So when we were all sworn in, we all took a pledge to serve and protect. We have received a lot of information about this person very recently. I have spoken to many people, hearing really terrible things. I believe we have a duty to check out the information that was given to us. It would be a tremendous embarrassment for the Village of Ridgewood to hire this person and then find out this information is true. It seems to be very real. There are backup documents for a lot of the items. I would like to start making some phone calls and discussing things. We should not be voting on this tonight. This should come off the agenda. And I think we are putting ourselves in harm's way, in line for a lawsuit. And we, as a village council, need to protect the residents. So, no.
Yes.
Whites? Okay. And you said yes. Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
I'm going to vote yes because this gentleman, we believe, is the person who can help push this project that has languished for 14 years, many mayors, many council people, 14 years. And it is our hope that he can push it over the finish line. So I'm voting yes.
Okay.
So Heather, just as a, now that can you post the new design on the website? Can we do that?
Yeah, I think it was, but if not,
Okay.
yes, we will.
Perfect.
And we will now go back to public comment, and I gather that the people who were in line will stay in line. I have had a
Gee, I wish some of those
request-
kids would hear what I'm about to
Excuse
say
me.
about this.
And
but-
forgive me, Lori, I've had a request from the council to take a 3-minute break, just so that we can breathe for a moment. So literally 3 minutes is all we're going to take.
Yeah, on top of 3.5 hours, okay.
Setting the timer.
Thank you so much. No, don't give her one. She might get me. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, excuse me. We will now begin public comment. It is 10 o'clock. We will go until 11. Please begin.
I don't need a whole hour, thank you, but thank you for offering.
I'm hopeful.
Time limit is 5 minutes per person.
Lori Weber, 235 South Irving Street. I just want to lower this a little bit so I can look down. Before I launch into a relatively short prepared speech, since I now have extra minutes, I want to comment on how the public is treated here. There seems to be a really, really big theme for Mr. Vagianos, the respect. And I have to say that the people who take the time and trouble to come to these meetings to address the council in public and on the record are treated badly. It's a cattle call. It's a cattle call. Making us stand in line is bad enough. And the reason we have to stand in line is because you put a limit on how many people can speak. And the truth is that you don't have to do that. And you could have made that exception tonight, Mr. Vagianos, and you didn't. But you did allow an exception that allowed someone who supported your view to cut into the front of the line. So I call you on that. And two people that were on that line, I got here at 6:30, a little bit before 6:30, and I missed the cutoff. That should say something to you about respect. So with that, I'm going to put on my glasses and read. So it's mind-boggling as our community struggles to mitigate PFAS in our water supply that we have a village council members endeavoring to add them back into our environment. Logic dictates that we are removing them from our water for a reason. A lack of logic and conscience is guiding these people to further expose our community. After all, as Mr. Vagianos pointed out, PFAS are everywhere, as though that actually justifies adding that health hazard into the environment yet again. Mr. Weitz stated that there's no conclusive evidence of such a health hazard, and he counted himself among the parents of children who are playing on that field. And I'm sorry that these parents and children are now gone, because I would like them to know this. The National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine stated in a 2022 report strong evidence that to link PFAS exposure, which can be by ingestion, direct contact, and through the air, to developmental problems in children, increased cholesterol, and kidney cancer. The EPA states that new restrictions on PFAS in drinking water will prevent thousands of deaths and prevent tens of thousands of serious PFAS-related illnesses. The New Jersey Department of Health states that those who play on artificial turf perform aggressive hand and body washing, remove clothes inside out, and wash it separately to prevent additional exposure to PFAS. That's how dangerous the New Jersey Department of Health finds what you are doing. And I am wondering if any of those children or their parents, or you, Councilman Weitz, were ever told that. Just go to the website. It's right there. It's exactly as I just stated it. The law is slow to catch up with science connected to various health concerns. It took many years for laws to catch up with health dangers linked to asbestos and cigarettes and the necessity of seatbelts at the expense of human life and health. You know, they actually identified asbestos as a carcinogen in the 19th century. And the house that I grew up in was built with asbestos shingles. And that is exactly what the village council majority is looking to take advantage of now. These people will wind up on the wrong side of history for what they're trying to do, and hopefully they won't take the community down with us. And I just want to add, of course, I expected Councilwoman Reynolds to support the science, but I am also very, very pleasantly surprised to see Councilwoman Perrin, who I don't agree with on many things, step away from the herd and do her homework and make those brave statements. So I want to thank you very much for that, Councilwoman Perrin, and I want to thank you also, Ms. Reynolds, for championing the people who stand in that line like cattle waiting to speak. For those two things, thank you.
Okay, I normally
Thank you, Lori.
I'm sorry. I normally don't speak during comments, and I'm going to break my own rule. But just to be clear here, since I've taken my seat, I don't think there's been a single meeting where Shedler has not been discussed by people. We have heard dozens upon dozens of hours worth of public comments, all of them meaningful, all of them relevant. All of us have met separately with a number of you in private settings. We've received dozens upon dozens of emails. To say that somehow we're not listening to the public, I think that's slightly disingenuous, and I say that with full respect to the prior speaker and every other speaker that has alleged it. Just because we have a difference of agreement doesn't mean we have a difference of respect and we're not listening to you. But at some point, we do have to run the meetings in a meaningful fashion because work does have to get done. There were lots of kids here tonight. Many of them have to go to school tomorrow that are here to see us take that vote. I fully agree with the mayor's decision to stick with the original limit of what we normally do in order to be able to, those kids could actually see what we do. But again, dozens of hours of public comments. Many of you, by the way, we've heard multiple times, and you're welcome to speak because that's what democracy looks like. But to say there's a lack of transparency or we're treating people like cattle, I think that's just unfair.
Thank you, Evan.
Joe DeMarco, 572 West Saddle River Road. I was happy to finally hear each council member's stance on the Shedler property last week. Unfortunately, I was not given the opportunity to then respond to your stance before a vote was made, and I find that wrong. That is where the difference is, Councilman Weitz. I find most of the justifications for wanting a large multi-use turf field to really be dismissive of facts that we've presented. I was going to go into a bunch of those, but since the vote has happened, I'm going to kind of speed through that. Your own cherry-picked consultant has told you one thing so far, and that was to stop. Stop the designing, stop voting, until he has all the information he needs to make a recommendation for you all. And yet here we are tonight, having already voted to approve a design and an additional $500,000 of taxpayer money without knowing all the necessary details to make an informed decision. Last month, a concerned resident raised concerns regarding the use of smart controllers for lawn irrigation. The council obliged, and a formal report on the exact numbers was provided to the village council prior to voting on this item. We were not afforded the same basic rights as citizens of the village of Ridgewood. It is your duty to do your due diligence to ensure the best outcome for all of your constituents. It has been over 1 month since I spoke about safety and traffic concerns for our neighborhood. The village engineer responded to my concerns that night and said that the sheriff could facilitate a new, accurate traffic study to be performed. But has the council and our mayor facilitated this request? The unfortunate answer is no. If you actually go back and take a look at the presentation from the ad hoc committee of 2017, you will see a detailed, thought-out process to the recommendations they made. They considered a multitude of concerns from all relevant groups, including field size, sound, preservation of history, safety, and quality of life. How are these criteria any different today than they were back then? Exactly, they aren't. The property hasn't changed, only the desires. The plan recommended by the ad hoc committee of 2017 had a 75 by 50 size field positioned close to West Saddle River Road with the preservation of a large amount of mature trees along Route 17 highway. This made common sense to protect the children playing by providing a canopy of protection. By enlarging the field and placing it where it currently is, favored Plan 24, these elements are gone. The plan also called for a 44-spot parking lot. Has the new plan increased the number of parking spots from this original recommendation? No, it has not. Larger field means larger demand and the need for more parking. The concerns neighbors of the Shedler neighborhood raise should be concerns for all village residents. We know our neighborhood best because this is where we live each day. We see the traffic patterns. We see the effects of diverting traffic accidents on Route 17 has on West Saddle River Road and Racetrack Road. We see the high speeds that people exit Route 17. We need to have these safety concerns addressed for both the residents participating in sporting events at Shedler and for the families of the Shedler neighborhood. A simple question for those families whose kids participate in sports: do you have time to sit in traffic? The Shedler property is at the end of West Saddle River Road. There is no direct access to Route 17 South, only Route 17 North. This means all traffic to get back to the remainder of Ridgewood has only one direction to go, down a narrow intersection where West Saddle River Road meets Bogart Road. As it is, cars can barely pass each other at this narrow intersection. Now add a line of cars leaving the Shedler property. This will impact your travel and will impact our neighborhood on a daily basis. We need proper planning to make this work. Haste makes waste. The rhetoric of the neighborhood versus the sports people needs to end now. We need to support each other and find a solution that addresses everyone's needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Excuse me, I was just going to say, Rohan and Frecia were at the front of the line, so I just want to make sure you guys get in. I said you and Frecia were at the front of the line, so I want to make sure.
No, we were not at the front of the line. We just happened to stand it.
Oh, I apologize. Just wanted to make sure you had an opportunity if you were waiting to speak. Good. Not the least bit concerned.
Hello. Hi, David Refkin, 401 Westina Terrace, and Chair of Green Ridgewood. Green Ridgewood's mission is to assist the Village Council in long-range planning concerning environmental issues, identify and anticipate environmental challenges, and research and recommend sustainable solutions. I'm going to go off my prepared text for a second here, and just to say that the members of Green Ridgewood are an incredibly dedicated and talented group of people. We spend a lot of time working on these issues. And for us not to have the opportunity to speak to Village Council before the vote, when our role is to advise the Village Council, is extremely disappointing. I came back here because I wanted to make sure, after getting here at 6:50 and standing for 2 hours, I went home for 40 minutes to rest. And then I came back here because I wanted this to be heard for the people who work so hard for Green Ridgewood. Tonight, we are fulfilling our mission as it relates to the Shedler property and the decision whether to install an artificial turf field or a natural turf field. Since we last addressed the Council on March 30th, we have become aware of new research which we believe is critical to the Council to evaluate before a decision is made. Of utmost importance is the growing body of evidence that artificial turf has serious public health, safety, and environmental problems. We know that PFAS is currently ubiquitous. That's not a good thing. We know that PFAS is used in the manufacture of artificial turf and that PFAS can be inhaled. PFAS bioaccumulates in our body. Recently, the Environmental Protection Agency issued a directive, quote, "Every level of government needs to exercise increased and sustained leadership to accelerate progress to clean up PFAS contamination and to prevent new contamination." According to a research conducted recently by Mount Sinai Hospital, women with higher levels of PFAS in their blood have a 40% lower chance of becoming pregnant. The study led by Dr. Nathan Cohn stated, quote, "Our study strongly implies that women who are planning pregnancy should be aware that the harmful effects of PFAS and take precautions to avoid exposures to this class of chemicals." An article published in Time magazine on April 7th details legislation in 9 states prohibiting the sale or distribution of various products due to PFAS and other chemicals. In one example, a bill was passed unanimously by the Vermont State Senate that includes a ban on artificial turf and many other clothing products. Industry trade associations such as the Outdoor Industry Association and the American Apparel and Footwear Association support the Vermont bill. Yes, private industry is now supporting a ban on PFAS. Things are changing quickly. And then there is crumb rubber, used as a key element in the foundation of artificial turf. The New Jersey Institute of Technology completed a peer-reviewed study entitled Health Impacts of Artificial Turf, Toxicity Studies, Challenges, and Future Directions. The author, Dr. Genoa Warner, states, quote, recent chemical analysis of crumb rubber, which is notoriously toxic, and of other artificial turf components have identified hundreds of chemicals, including carcinogens, neurotoxicants, and endocrine disruptor chemicals. The emerging research, the recommendations from the Environmental Protection Agency, the 9 states proposing a PFAS ban, and the serious fertility concerns are all sending us a clear signal. The EPA just lowered its acceptable level of PFAS in drinking water by 94%. Why did they do this? Ridgewood Water decided, even before the EPA directives, to spend $100 million to reduce PFAS in drinking water to non-detectable levels. Clearly, this is a serious public health threat, and we should not be adding to the problem by installing artificial turf. Based on this new information, we must do everything we can to dramatically reduce our exposure to PFAS. We cannot disregard the science. We need to strive to understand it and act accordingly. Given what we know today and how fast the science is changing, Green Ridgewood believes that the proper course of action would be to install natural turf. We must protect our children and recognize there is new information that we cannot, in good conscience, ignore. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
I'm here at last. I know you wanted me. So, we stood here pleading with y'all. We stood here 14 years
Please
ago.
give your name and
pleading
address.
Sorry?
Your name and address.
They all know me. But Rohan De Silva.
We need it for the record.
Rohan De Silva, 521 West Saddle River Road. Okay. So we've stood here for years, 14 years. I think it was even before that. By the way, we didn't want a 7-Eleven or a shopping mall, but what we did want was a community garden, a place, maybe a playground. So there are some facts that are a little off kilter here. But we pled with you, and it didn't seem to matter. I'm encouraged by Mrs. Perron and Mrs. Reynolds for their stance. I'm very dismayed with Siobhan and Evan, and you, Paul, for taking the vote the way you did. You didn't hear everyone. You didn't hear your own people, your own village people. Oh, wow, I should have sung YMCA. Anyway, but, you commented before about that young girl. She came to speak. That's free speech, right? If she comes to speak and is in a big boy and girl world, she has to deal with all the things. Now, nobody should be hit. Nobody should be screamed at. And I believe people on both sides were offended, and people on both sides were intimidated. But I stood here, and I listened to I saw that girl. My heart went out to her, as it would be, and it went out to the father when he stood here, and I believe he cried. I couldn't tell. You know my hearing is deficient. And I wonder where those people are, since the berm has been placed, and a lot of trees have been cut, and I am under attack, and I'm intimidated every day because my lung function has gone down, and I'm sure if there was a baseline test, I have one because I'm an asthmatic. But if you check all the other residents in that area, their lung function has gone down because the trees have been cut. And they were cut just to put that berm in. So, So I'll give you an illustration of what this feels like to me. And maybe you've turned your back on us, and this is all we have to say. Please, please listen to the people and do what's right. Not just the sports people. Not just the sports people. And by the way, we care about those children too. We don't want them to have cancer and other reproductive issues. 10, 15 years down the road, that girl was 16. She was a sophomore. But please, look after them too, which is what we're asking for, the health of the village. Thank you.
Thank you, Rohan.
Olivia Sakakihara, 172 West Glen Avenue. I've been here since 7, and I'm so disappointed I couldn't speak earlier because I actually came to ask. It seems to me we have some money on our hands to improve the life in our community. So I came to ask if we could remember that there are kids who live at West Glen in the stretch where we don't have sidewalks. And also, yeah, it's important to highlight those kids weren't here today because many of them happen to have special needs. And yeah, they couldn't come here, they couldn't cope. Like my neighbor next door, 2 of them have kids with special needs. I have, and so they couldn't come here. And many times I cannot go out on a walk with my son because there are times he needs a wheelchair, and so we cannot. And we go out there elsewhere in the town, and we see kids walking, and it's just not part of our reality living there. So yeah, as I said, I wish I could have spoken earlier because I would ask, in face of all the oppositions and the concerns of the residents, if we could just prioritize what seems to me very basic, which is sidewalks, and give all of us, some time to think through those issues that other residents raised. And again, I don't want to raise or encourage divide between sports and non-sports people, but if we are really concerned on the welfare of kids, we need to think on safety first and then address other things. At our homes, we first pay our mortgage and pay our supermarket, then we think on like having money to go on vacation. So there is like a pyramid of priorities, and by listening to all the conversations last week and this week, it seems to me our pyramid here in our community is not well established. But yeah, anyway, I was late, and nonetheless, I thank you for the opportunity of speaking, and once again, ask to remember of the kids who live at West Glen. It's like pretty much everybody has kids there. I know it wasn't the case in the past, but now it's really a stretch where a lot of kids live, and I ask you to reconsider our sidewalks and and have them as a priority. And it's not just for us, it's for everybody. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you again. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Aaron Greenberg. I live at 570 West Saddle River Road. I'm Joe DeMarco's neighbor. And I have a wife and 3 children, 7-year-old who is a 4-sport athlete and excels at just about everything she does, but soccer, lacrosse, gymnastics, and which one am I forgetting? Oh, t-ball. And then the 11-year-old is autistic, and he enjoys Rubik's Cubes and Roblox and riding his bike outside. And then the 3-year-old who's built like me, so he'll probably play football at some point. But we moved to 570 West Saddle River Road to this piece of property that's about 0.7 acres because I'm from Texas and my wife is from New Mexico, and we like our elbow room. So when we moved to New Jersey about 6 years ago, we were in Wyckoff when I was in my practice, and we then moved to Ridgewood because as we got to know the state and the area, Ridgewood had a good reputation, schools. We were on Mountain Avenue, and then we decided to buy this home, old historic home, and have been doing our best to revitalize it, bring it back to life. And we really enjoy the area. We enjoy our neighbors. Joe DeMarco and his family are lovely. Our kids play together, and often the little girls who are of similar age we'll let them run outside and go back and forth. And we let, again, our kids ride their bikes in the cul-de-sac right there. And this is concerning for me on a couple of fronts. Number one is the safety of my son for sure, and the rest of my kids and the neighborhood kids with the volume of traffic on that street and the width of the road and the difficulty of that many cars passing through and the speeds at which they pass. And listen, I'm guilty. I'm a busy orthopedic surgeon. I fly in and out at 6 in the morning. I fly home when I can, at 6, 7 p.m., and I drive too fast too. But so I can assure you, I'm guilty of it. A lot of people are guilty of driving too fast on that off-ramp. And there's not much room to pass through cars, and certainly on Bogert Road, it's dangerous. I have an SUV, and you cannot fit two SUVs barely going back to the right on Bogert to get back to 17 South. So that's concerning for me. As I'm also concerned about the pollution, the chemicals, yes. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about noise pollution. I don't want that billboard either, but that's a separate thing. As an orthopedic surgeon who was at the University of Texas and treated many professional athletes, college athletes, high school athletes, tons of knee scopes, tons of ACLs. I've had 2 knee surgeries. Both of my knee injuries, artificial turf. My knees are ruined. Multiple injuries and multiple surgeries. So, there's evidence as a physician when you can look at PubMed, you can find data to support anything, really. And high-quality studies are difficult in orthopedic surgery, and it's difficult to randomize things like this. So I can tell you anecdotally from someone who's been in practice for many, many years and been on the sidelines for many, many games, turf fields produce lots of income for orthopedic surgeons. There are a lot more injuries on turf fields than there are on grass fields. It's just the way it goes, So I would love to have a park in that area. I would love to have a little pathway for my 3-year-old and my 7-year-old and a little, area for them to play, and a small field would be great. I mean, I thought that was what was going on, and I would have fully supported that. I really don't want a large turf complex near my house. Frankly, I wanted to be in Saddle River, and then I was convinced to be here, and my wife still wanted to be there. I don't have to live in Ridgewood. Joe doesn't have to live in Ridgewood. My other neighbor behind me who's a doctor, she doesn't have to live here either. We don't have to live in that area of town. I don't want to live on a postage stamp in the other area of town where I was. I like having elbow room. I like having the fresh air and all the trees that I have, and a home with basement was in 1610 with 2 feet thick, walls. It's cool. But, this kind of stuff is frustrating, and I didn't get a chance to speak either. And, I'm spending time away from my family in practice to be here for several hours, and I was here early. My time's up, but I appreciate your attention. So,
Thank you so much, Aaron.
Hi, Lynn Dewhurst, 176 West Glen Avenue, postage stamp. So first, I guess, I want to parenthetically address the issue of whether it's enough to have 3.5 acres of trees left from a 7-acre plot of old-growth trees. I think it's not, and frankly, I wish the Lorax had been here in the last few years to speak for the trees have no tongues. As you've heard tonight and previously, there's a lot of opposition to the large turf field at Shedler, even within the same house in the neighborhood, as it turns out. And in the face of that continued opposition, in the face of continued opposition from the neighborhood residents, opposition from the greater Ridgewood community, and obstacles to overcome from SHPO and other state agencies, my question is, why not consider returning to the original agreed-upon small field park playground plan? Why not allocate money to the improvement of drainage and maintenance of Ridgewood's numerous existing fields, turf and otherwise? But if not, I'm sort of looking for answers publicly to who benefits from the clear-cutting, the turf field, and the revising of the property's historical significance by a historian who is credibly alleged to have misrepresented his credentials for decades. The lawyers in the room will understand the phrase cui bono, and I don't think it's been properly answered. When we moved to Ridgewood, our son was one of just 9 kids on the long block between North Monroe and Heights on either side of the street. But now, amazingly, there are kids in every single house but one, ranging in age from 2 to 20. There are several kids, as you heard one mother speak, that have disabilities. And we need a sidewalk the entire length of the hill, as was planned, approved, and budgeted for. What I'm asking is that if the Shedler start date will likely be extended to 2024-ish, maybe, that you put the West Glen Avenue sidewalk project back on the budget as a high priority to enhance pedestrian and community safety on West Glen. It's a highly trafficked road, as you know, on which I would estimate 1 in 25 drivers actually obey the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, not least because it's not posted regularly, despite repeated exhortations to the village that the signs be restored and promises from Chris that they would be restored, including the one that was hit and knocked down by an Escalade at 4 in the morning in August, just past 172 West Glen. I think the sidewalk project is easy to accomplish because the plans were complete, the spend was allocated, the project was begun on either side of West Glen. There's still the paint and the promise of the, scooching in of our border walls or our retaining walls, whatever. And there's no opposition from the neighborhood, even those of us who are going to have to shovel our new sidewalks, or the greater community, which I think is why the budget was allocated and the project was passed initially after, design charrettes and the whole rest of it. The project will be a win for this council as an accomplishment that happened on your watch, making West Glen safer for pedestrians, bicyclists, dog walkers, wheelchair users, stroller pushers. I urge you to reallocate the 2023 funds that might be sort of shunted aside right now for a little while to the completion of the sidewalk project, and please make pedestrians safer on West Glen. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lynn.
Good evening. Saurabh Dani, 390 Bedford Road, Ridgewood. And I just want to clarify, I'm here speaking in my personal capacity as a resident of Ridgewood. So first I wanted to thank Lorraine and Pam for their courage and the vote and all the details that were provided by Pam. Linda is going to be very proud of you today, wherever she is. And when I heard Pam speaking, I basically came here to just thank you for all the things that I have gone through with Linda and your affiliation with her. So thank you for that. I have few questions that I just came up with. That was my primary reason to thank, but I have some follow-up questions. I know you may not be able to answer all of them, but I know some of you are very active on Facebook and very transparent, so if you can answer whenever you can about this information. So Councilwoman Perrin is a liaison to the Green Team and the Green Ridgewood, which is a a subcommittee of this council. And at the last meeting when I was hearing her, she raised some concerns about turf. So I'm not an expert in turf. I don't know which way is the better, but as she is the liaison of the council on that committee, and she raised some concerns at the last meeting, I just wanted to know from the council, from your colleague who is a liaison on that committee, she raised concerns, what research or what opinions did you solicited after her inputs at the last meeting? Did you ask, we have a village health department. If you asked our health department about their opinion, can you make that opinion public? Did you ask any experts in this field to cross-check what Councilwoman Perron raised? Can you make that information public? Or did you vote by ignoring her questions and just from your gut feel? That's a question I want to know. So whichever way it is, if one of your colleagues who is a liaison to Green Team raised some concerns, did you cross-check those facts from some experts? And if you did, can you make that information public? The next one is, the health department, if you ask the health department. Then the director of Ridgewood Water is here, our village attorney is here, and we are suing, the Ridgewood Water is suing other companies and corporations who polluted Ridgewood Water of POFS or PFOS. And did neither of you warn about the public statements that are being made from this dais, that how will that influence that litigation ongoing, if that litigation is still ongoing? If we are saying that we don't care about polluting anymore and we are going to go ahead and pollute it more, how are our opponents on that litigation going to use that against us? Did nobody talk to you about that? Then there are some council people on this dais who ran after 2017-2018 plan. Can they make it public that what changed, what are the facts that have changed since they ran for the election that changed their opinion or their votes? So they have said that, yes, we have identified, we talked to the sports people, we have identified that there's a greater need, but what has changed since you ran for your election? So all of that information was available before you ran on a platform, you made some promises, and then you changed. So what is the factual information that changed? Were you not talking to sports team before? And if you were part of the committees, did you not do your homework at that time? I just want to understand that, what changed. Then my second last point is the sidewalk versus Shedler. Both of these projects are capital projects. Neither of these should be coming from operating budget. Neither of these projects, you should be assigning money and raising our taxes to 4% or 4.3%. These are not a one-time money that's going there, and if you raise the taxes, that tax increase is perpetual. So 4% that you're raising, anything that differential between 2 and 4, that will be raised permanently for village every year, and you are going to use that money only 1 year. There's no reason to remove the sidewalk project, or if you can explain that math, I may be doing it wrong, so I'm willing to learn. Just explain that math to us, that why do you have to kill a sidewalk project? Why can you not go for a bond? Why can you not go for a bond for Shedler? And why can you not go for a bond for sidewalk? And do both of those projects. It's very difficult to get neighbors agreeing to a sidewalk project, very difficult to get the design, all of those things done, especially on a county road. Why are you killing that project? And I'll close in 1 minute. I've sent some emails about broken curbs, and I have received a response that those will be fixed when we fix the roads. So I don't understand that. How do you make Ridgewood residents liable for fixing sidewalks or hazards when council itself is not fixing broken curbs and delaying that until the road is going to be fixed? And lastly, Mayor, you said that the trees will not be cut, and I personally think that that's a misrepresentation, because there's not enough room for bleachers, there's not enough room for parking. Eventually, when space is needed, those trees will go. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sarab.
Warwick, Hallaby, 1 Franklin Avenue. And let me start out by saying thank you and congratulations for staying the course. A couple of points. One, as far as a village manager, please get going immediately on replacing the village manager with a person who would be here on a full-time basis. In the long run, it is the most important thing you will do. I realize you're up to your ears in alligators, as they say, correcting for all the damage the village has suffered in the past 6 years. Yes. Still, having an effective management at the highest level of the village is critical. Secondly, as far as the budget, please arrange for Bob Rooney, and I've said that before, to present the budget at the town hall meeting where you can have a give and take with Bob. Critically important to know how our money is being spent. Also, please get the FAC reconstituted, because we dodged the bullet this year. We will not be able to do it next year. Now, as far as Shedler, I reviewed a website, shedlerpark.com, and I couldn't find any names behind it. And frankly, I have no time or respect for any website that does not disclose the people behind it. What are these people trying to hide? We live in America. If you have something to say, stand up and say it. And if you get booed, get booed. But stand up for what you think is right. Second, from what I could read in the website, the best way of describing the website is that the content consists of half-truths wrapped in twisted facts and soaked in exaggerated lies. Nothing credible about what these people are doing or saying. Let me give you an example. Citizens will be stripped of their right to a clean, safe, and healthy environment. Are you kidding me? Just by going from a small field to a bigger field, we're being stripped of our rights? American history will be destroyed. A green ecosystem will be clear-cut, and wildlife will be decimated. Why do people do this? It is silly. Anyone with half a brain will realize this is just nonsense. This is just exaggerations that accomplish nothing. I fully understand people's fear of change. I fully understand parents worrying about heavy traffic. I understand that. But that's going to be the case whether you have a small field or a bigger field. It's a problem that we have to face, if you will. Third, the approach by many of the antis, if you will, reminds me of the fear mongering when the apartments were being discussed. For the record, I live in an apartment and very, very happy. After 52 years of living in a house, the best thing I've done is to move into the Benjamin, if you will. Remember how our CBD was going to be log-jammed with traffic, how the apartments were going to be will be filled with kids who will overwhelm the schools. Hasn't happened. In the 4 apartments, 16 kids have gone to school, but the school system has lost more than 16 people. And the stupidest point that was made, this fear-mongerer who said these apartments will draw so much water, the fire department won't be able to fight fires. You know something? I watch my water bill. It is 10% of what it was in our house. Nothing has happened. And I think many of the fears will just, once the work is done, and you are at least accomplishing something, which in the last 6 years has not been accomplished, if you will. A couple more points. People keep on talking about sorry.
I'm going to remind everyone, and you also, Rurik, we end at 11 p.m. We also have 2 people online waiting. You can all take your full 5 minutes, but we end at 11 p.m. So,
okay, so
if you want to leave some time for some other people, and I say that to everyone, I think that would be nice.
Okay. I've lost my train of thought. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. That's okay. But one last thing. I really get, how shall I say it? I'm really, as I think of the village council, one of my favorite members is becoming Lorraine Reynolds, because some of the things she says, I just say, where were you in the last 6 years? Where were you when we built the berm, which was like a disaster, occupying 1 acre out of the 7 acres? Where were you when the field was used as a dump for all the dirt that came from the apartments? Where were you? You
Thank you, Rourke.
Okay.
Ellie Gruber, 229 South Irving, and I won't take 5 minutes. I just want to address the fact that I was on the ad hoc committee in 2017, and Ms. Winograd's husband was on that committee, and I wish I took notes. The decision for the field was made as follows. Mayor Hache was there, Mike Seaton was there, I was there, Isabella was there, sadly, for a short time. Manish was there. It was decided by the people who knew soccer, and I don't, that baseball was losing a lot of players, that the need was for soccer players, young soccer players, to develop them. And the real need, of course, there was 3 soccer enthusiasts on that committee, so I sort of understood it. But they made a really good point, that you could have a field that could be used by 2 teams at the same time, 2 practices, then it could be opened up for a game. The committee was very well aware of the dangers of crumb rubber turf. And as you recall, at the time, we consulted some environmental engineers. Now, this was 6 years ago, and a lot has changed. At the time, they recommended that you have coconut-based turf field so that those little pellets wouldn't go astray. So that was the recommendation. So before you say we recommended a turf field, I would like to clarify what we meant by that. Of course, in these 6 years, we've learned much more. And Mr. Weitz, there's an incidence of cancer in this country that is beyond statistical. The cancers don't start that day, that week, that month, 2 years, 3 years. They start early in life and develop. If there is a chance, and I agree with Mrs. Perrin, if there is a chance with what we know now to stop that, I think you should take it. Are you willing to gamble? Sure, these guys think there's nothing wrong playing on sports. And my orthopedist also said, bring them on, because I need a new car, I need a new house, I need a new pool. I love them working on turf, playing on turf. It's my biggest thing. He's got kids every day who have this broken, that slipped. So, I totally agree. I've heard this from my orthopedist all the time. So I really think, of course, we've hired an attorney, and we are going to fight this thing. No matter, you have to understand this is going to be a very lengthy process. And when the resolution was made in 2018, at the end of the resolution, it said, and this is binding for all future councils, which, as I know from Mr. Rogers, doesn't mean spit. So now you are doing a resolution that is binding for all other councils, and that doesn't mean spit. So we can go back and forth over the years, because a resolution is just I was very disappointed. I thought it meant something. The third thing I want to say is about the check. We came to the podium and announced that because the house, and I think Ms. Maylander may remember, because the house was nearly completed, there was no need for us to have our bank account, our 501c3, where we have to file, where we have to report, and it's a pain. And we wanted to clean it out because we were sure the house was going to be finished. We gave that check by announcing what it was for, and you put it in trust because the house wasn't finished. So please don't say we gave it secretly, or without any reason. We made specific what the reason was. We said, if you want to do a kitchen, if you want to do this, whatever you want to do. And that's why we want our check back, and I hope we got it back, because our attorney was very shocked. He said, why do people give money to the village? He said, I don't understand that. Well, that's another story. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to say, that the reason for all the delay, and accusing Mrs. Reynolds is just ridiculous, the reason for all the delay was nothing to do with the council. It was a runaway engineering department that did their own thing, despite what the resolution said, sent it in with some engineer that I never heard of and isn't there now, did not send it to the council. They sent it to Nancy Bigos, they sent it to Janet Fricke, and they sent it to SHPO. And when SHPO saw it, they said, no way, it's absolutely refused. It took them a while to refuse it. Sorry. I just want to make that clear.
Thank you, Ellie.
Hi, Fretridge de Silva, 521 West Saddle River Road. I don't actually have much or anything specific to say tonight, but I must say that I am quite disappointed in where we are in this story. I expect government to act with logic and compassion, and that unfortunately is not what I've seen in the last several weeks. I believe we can evolve as human beings, and we learn from what is the evidence that's put before us. I used an example a couple weeks ago about smoke and fire, and we're taught, we're told, even when we do things at work, you know, if you go to a door and you put your hand on that door, and if it's warm, you don't enter it. It's probably something on the other side. And I think that's exactly what we're doing here. We're taking a blind eye to a lot of very informative information and scientific evidence that something's going on the other side of that wall. And we're ignoring it, and we're walking right through that wall. I know things were done before some of you were put on the dais, but now, and it may not have been on your watch, but now this is our watch, and you are making those decisions right now. This vote is taken by the people that are here tonight, and the people in this room, and the people who come here and write letters to you. That's why we're standing up. Not for what was done in the past, but for what we're doing right now and what will impact the future. And that's all I have to say, is that we have to take heed of all of the information we have right now, and we have to use it for the right purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 7 minutes left. There are 3 people online.
Oops. Jacqueline Home, 30 Carriage Lane. This is a question more for village manager and village attorney. Tonight there was Resolution 23148 adopting the conceptual design plans for Shedler. And that was done on top of the previous adopted approved plan. So there seems to be a little glitch right now, because it seems like we have 2 standing plans for Shedler on the record right now. I think somebody might have goofed and forgot to rescind one in order to introduce another. If the manager and or attorney can clarify, what do we do now? Similarly to the other lists of projects related to this that were done, putting things in incorrect order and mismanagement. If you could just clarify, what do we do now that we have 2 resolutions on record and we didn't rescind the other? My other point is that the first adopted plan that we have, or approved plan, actually reads that it is approved field design. It was a final design. It was a design. And this resolution reads that the conceptual design plans. So I recall that the 2018 adopted plans was also contingent upon studies, numerous studies. And now this plan that's conceptual, a design plan, a conceptual plan, not final plan, still to me reads like we have time to do our due diligence, not breach your fiduciary obligation to residents, and conduct impact studies that we know exist. Again, I sent an email earlier today saying that the project had already been identified, which you cannot ignore. You don't get to cherry pick, contrary to your belief. This cherry picking of committees, so there's numerous emails back and forth that the committees that would align with the council majority were consulted and came forward this evening to speak, and in the past, but as Councilwoman Perrin, Deputy Mayor, and the previous speaker said, why wasn't the Green Committee brought in? Why wasn't the Safety Committee brought in? Why wasn't the Shade Tree Committee, that's 4,000 tree deficit in the village of Ridgewood, come in and consulted with all of these matters? What happened to them and their input? What happened to our input as residents? Councilman Weitz, you've said repeatedly that we spoke and that we've been here. But you were given very specific questions and promised that you would answer us before anything, and we're still waiting, and you voted. You voted without answering our questions. You voted without giving us a dialogue. Both the county and the state require that we be given a due process, that there be public involvement in the planning process with a minimum requiring of a public hearing. This isn't a public hearing. This is us getting, like Rohan stood up here and gave you his back. We get to speak and we're never given an answer, ever, not once. None of our questions are answered, whether we give you a list in writing, whether we send you emails, whether we speak for 2 months. If it doesn't align with your agenda, we're ignored repeatedly. We're dismissed and we're discarded. And the last thing I want to say, to add to Mr. Sarabdani's point, somebody needs to check. There's many errors along with this project, but somebody should check exactly what he's saying, pay very close attention, where this money is coming from within the budget. And there's absolutely a way to give West Glen their sidewalks. We can bond, as he said. It doesn't have to come from the money pool that you're pulling from. And this project, Shedler project, doesn't seem like it's going to get done anytime soon, especially because there's a federal migratory act, which we've repeated over and over again to you, that not a single tree can be touched. It's a federal act until August. So it doesn't seem like this project is going to finish this year. So give that money and do the right thing to East Glen and build those sidewalks and do the studies before you develop anything at Shedler. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. This will be our final speaker of the evening. We will not have an opportunity to get to the people on hybrid access.
Hi, thank you. I'm Alice Yankowitz. I'm at 321 Van Emberg Avenue, and I'll be quick because I'm going to get cut off, and everybody wants to go home. I didn't know village council town meetings can be so spicy. This is like the spiciest council meeting I've ever been at. And that comes from me living in New York City for 18 years, where I was a very active member in the borough of Brooklyn. So once a fight breaks out, we're going to set a record. So I think that's really exciting. I know you want to avoid that. One of the things that I think is really interesting is how we're citing all of these medical things. We're going back for data, like this, that, and the other. We're talking about sports, how many teams we got. I want us to kind of think about it logically. Forget all of that and think about things logically. You can't be pro-green initiatives and be like, oh, but that doesn't apply to me, right? Because X, Y, Z, right? You can't do that. 18 years in Brooklyn, I'm going to tell you it don't work that way. Either you're supporting a principle or you're not. I live in a very old house, and when it was built in like 1850 whatever, there were no smoke detectors. Now it has smoke detectors because we know better, right? So when you're using the argument there's no evidence or there isn't enough evidence, maybe we should think about things logically. Oh, I live in a wooden house. Oh, maybe I should have a smoke detector. If there's evidence for environmental issues because of a turf field, then maybe we could apply that logic to maybe not do further damage. That's all I gotta say. And Mr. Eric Weitz, I'm also thinking about my kid. My kid's coming in 4 weeks, right? I'm thinking about him. So, the argument is that we're not thinking about our kids, we're not thinking about our community, is really offensive, because that's what we're here for. We're thinking about the generation that's coming, and we know better. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The time is 11:01. I'm going to close public comment.
Resolution. Be it resolved by the Village Council of Village of Ridgewood that the Village Council meet in closed session on April 12, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter on the agenda can be reached. And the said closed session will be held in the Cox Room of the Ridgewood Village Hall, 131 North Maple Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey. Be it further resolved that the matter to be discussed in closed session is limited to legal matters to include Ridgewood Water NJDEP Administrative Consent Order. This matter is allowable under NJSA 10:4-12 et sec. And be it further resolved that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the Village Council. May I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you.